bastard sermon, you motherfuckers.
Welcome to another episode of the Bastard Sermon. I'm one of your three hosts, Cody Hucker.
Patrick Seda.
And I'm Luke Young.
And we're back, fuckfaces, and no one's angry this time.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just gonna go right off the top of this episode and drop some good news. 45 minutes ago, actually, I checked our Bastard Sermon email account, and Patreon has cleared us.
We have a Patreon, so by the time you guys hear this,
listeners?
we've already promoted this, and you're sick of hearing about it. So yeah, we're gonna set up the Patreon.
It's made.
We are here, listeners, and new content is coming.
I
got some ideas I want to run by you guys.
When we do the sponsor shout outs is when I will give the Patreon link. So stay tuned.
Cool.
Sweet. Yeah, did you guys have, I had an idea that I wanted to throw towards you guys, and I don't care if it's on the air. I wanted to do like a once a month situation where it's called Patrick's Cringe Corner. And
I
it's
like
all
it already.
the crazy people.
And it's just when Patrick talks anytime on the podcast.
Yeah, it's literally just me telling stories. Anything that comes out of my mouth will cringe you out. But I want to call like the Joker guy, Jeremy Putman. I'll figure that out. I want to talk to all like Kenya Manfredo.
Oh yeah,
and just learn about their lives.
So all the interviews that I don't ever want to do on the regular Bastard Sermon, we'll save that and do that for the Patreon, basically, is what you're saying?
Yeah, Patrick's Cringe Corner. You know, Robert Reynolds. The listeners love Robert Reynolds, but Cody, you fucking hate Robert.
I don't hate Robert. I like Robert, but his ideas are fucking dumb. Like, if Robert could be my boy just hanging out, and I'll tell him his shit's stupid all day, every day. I just don't want to argue with him. It's why I don't do like the last time that I gave a fuck about conspiracies was like 2010. They had that fucking Michael Rupert documentary that came out, the fucking Collapse or whatever the fuck it was called, and he's sitting there chain smoking American Spirits, talking about how all the oil's gonna run out and everybody's fucked, and fucking 10 years later none of that shit happened. He was like, if you aren't already living on your own fucking vegetables, it's too late. You're gonna die. Everybody's gonna fucking die.
But
everything. The roads are made out of oil. Everything's made out of oil. We're all fucked. And I was just like, yeah, none of that shit happened. And then
listen to it though. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I want to argue with these people. I already know what I'm getting into. It's the cringe corner.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
But I want to hear them. I want to hear their ideas. You know, I want to hear what they have to say.
I hear you.
And, you know, maybe I'll enable it.
You're
for all
also
I know.
gonna have to hope that they're okay with being included in a segment called the Cringe Corner.
no, you just don't
I'll
tell
call
him.
it like the Patrick
easy.
CC podcast or whatever, and then afterwards they can find out it's the cringe corner.
It's so simple. They'll just never know about it.
CC stand for?
Cool cast.
Yeah, the Cool Cast Corner. No, yeah. I mean,
Wear
do
my
it.
sunglasses the whole time. They won't even know.
Do it. Just don't tell him. You know, Robert listens to this, by the way. And you got that big fucking
course.
7-foot line.
Robert would love to come on.
He's a former Kentucky fucking college linebacker. He's huge. The man is fucking enormous, and you're over here saying Cody doesn't
He's
like
my
him.
buddy.
I don't fucking not like you, Robert. There's nothing that I don't like about you.
Please
That's
don't
a
hit
fact.
him.
That's a fact. I fucking love Robert's
I love him.
originality. I love his enthusiasm.
Yeah, he's a great
He's a
dude.
good guy.
There's
Like,
nothing wrong
no
with
matter
Robert.
all the
But
shit
yeah,
we gave him on the show, like, he never lost his cool.
I
He
just
was
never-
always super cool.
I just don't give a fuck about.
I'm totally with Cody. Like, he's not someone you can talk to about that stuff. Because, like, with conspiracy theorists to that level, like, all the proof in the world in their face is not going to be enough to sway them.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm
They've
saying?
made up
Like,
their mind.
they'll always say that was fabricated, that's owned by pharma, that's owned by
fake
the government.
news.
And it's exhausting.
That's funded by so-and-so, that's run by the deep government.
Yep.
It's like, oh my God, shut the fuck up.
And you can't have intellectual conversation. And when I say intellectual
Yeah.
conversation, I'm a fucking retard. So I'm the wrong person to say intellectual conversation with a straight face ever.
But
But
you
what I
tried.
mean, yeah, but I tried. I got all the syllables right and shit like that, and I didn't stutter, so I sounded like I knew what I was talking about. But what I mean is, like, when you're talking to somebody and you're like, when you see that somebody can accept that they're wrong about something, I'm like, okay, I could talk to you. But when you and I'm also, I see Pat and Luke both laughing because I'm the worst at this, like accepting when I'm wrong. I feel like every once and again though, I can do it. But like,
I feel like you can. I just feel like you got to be out of your mood.
Yeah, I gotta not be a pissy little bitch, and then I can fucking be like, yeah, I was wrong. You gotta give me a minute. It takes me a minute, but I can get there. But I feel like Robert can't do that. He can never be like, I'm wrong. He'd be like, oh yeah, well, fucking, let's go to the next topic. So, anyways, 6 million Jews didn't die in the Holocaust. I'm like, all right, Robert, now we gotta turn the podcast off because everybody's gonna fucking shut us down and take our jobs from us. It's like if he was willing to be like, okay, I'll listen to you, and then I make my case, and he's like, I didn't think about it that way, and then he's like, but did you think about this? And then we could have a back and forth. Those people that have those conspiracy ideas, though, they're never like that ever. It's 0 times out of fucking a million times are they like that.
It's like talking to someone who's got like a legit mental disorder where you try to explain to them what is wrong and what's the real issue, but in their head they're ignoring everything out of your mouth while they're looking you in the eyes. They're just waiting for you to stop talking so they can tell you why you're wrong and why they are.
Because they've already thought about that. They've already thought about that argument.
Not that you have like something wrong with your brain.
But here's
Robert. I'm just talking about people like you.
This backpedaling little bitch. Robert, stomp his ass. Get him.
But I'm saying, like, for the podcast, I want to like hear them go on. I'm not going to argue with them. I want them to talk. I'll ask them questions. Hell, I'll throw in some crazy ideas myself or bullshit.
I want them to damn themselves on our show.
Yeah, no, right?
Patreon
and
content.
then give them no platform to redeem themselves again.
They'll have to pay for the service to listen to it. You get what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
It's a win-win.
I'm so happy we finally have the Patreon. Thanks for finally setting it up, Luke. We busted Luke's balls so hard about it.
So, I want to talk about that for real.
Can we talk about the Discord thing, the comment about it? That's so fucking
Oh, that was so goddamn perfect.
Let's talk about this. Okay, so for how long have we been doing this, boys? Like 3 years?
Almost 3 years, yeah.
So like 3 years, and it has been like a fucking itch on my back, like a huge problem. Like you guys have been trying to get me to do it. I tried, and then I gotta set up the bank account and everything, and it all just like came in 1 week. Especially from last episode of us like shitting on each other. Like even more people were asking about the Patreon because that was something you had used in your rant, and so like I'm like, all right, fucking, it's happening. Like it's happening.
And while that's happening, you were also writing us in the chat. This is important for the story, for the comment that pops up. Keep going. Sorry.
While it's happening, I'm writing in the chat. We get like, Patrick decides out of nowhere to like reshare our Discord channel that we never use or share at all. But now it's getting traction this week.
Can I interrupt one more time?
It's got a ridiculous amount of traction on it.
Yeah, go ahead. Interrupt.
And that's the day that the podcast drops. So literally the same day the podcast dropped, Luke's getting on the fucking Patreon stuff, and Pat is like, okay, now I'm going to drop the Discord and the Facebook. Follow us at the Bastard Sermon Podcast group on Facebook. That's where you interact with all of us. But yeah, keep going from there.
So he shares a comment that he had seen on the Discord page saying, has Luke made the Patreon yet? And I am fucking reeling like in my house, like, God damn it, son of a bitch.
It was better than
hilarious.
that. So Patrick screenshotted it, and it was like Todd asked to join the group, and then fucking you see where Pat accepts the request. It's not a second later, and this is after we're breaking Luke's ball. If you saw it in our chat, it was so fucking funny.
It was literally as we were bitching at him.
Bitching at Luke about the fucking Discord, and then screenshot drop. It's Todd, and then Todd was like, "Yeah, did Luke start the Patreon yet?" We were like, "This is so perfect." People were breaking your balls the day they heard the podcast. Jumped on the Discord immediately on your ass about it, dude.
So like all of that happened, and 3 years of ball breaking, and I get on the Patreon, I put in the information. It fucking sucks, by the way. Like actually operating Patreon on your phone. I don't like my laptop is garbage.
You have a computer.
I do now, but what I need to get a wireless internet adapter.
That's on the PC if you have the PC.
Yeah, on yours, but I have to like do some sort of programming that I'm not smart enough. Like it's not accepting it right away.
For sure, he doesn't have to do any programming, folks listening. There's no black screen that pops up where he types and there's green letters and Luke's sitting there.
Click like the connection signal icon, it says like choose which.
Luke
channel
got too
to
high
hit.
to
Okay,
fucking
boomer.
follow the
Locked on
super
Ethernet.
simple Windows 10
Whatever.
instructions. You're
Okay,
you're a fucking lazy bitch. Is what I'll tell everybody
Dude,
listening to
that-
what's going on.
FaceTime
That's
this.
so
Luke is
basic.
so
FaceTime
lazy.
this.
He didn't
We
even
will
try to.
FaceTime
He
this.
didn't even try to Google search what was wrong. He was like,
We
"Fuck it, I
will
give up.
FaceTime this.
Completely give up already." Like, come on, dude. Just
I
But
gotta choose a
anyways.
network? Are you kidding me?
But anyways, I'm like,
type
I'm
in a
using it
Wi-Fi
on my
password.
phone.
What are we, cavemen?
I'm using a Patreon on my phone and I'm trying to set it up, and it keeps like ending it and needing to reload, saying it lost connection every time I like make progress.
Full
Long story
site?
short, I finally get it done. Yeah, the full site.
Be right back.
Okay, no app.
No. So like I downloaded the app, but you can't like customize your settings on the app like you can on desktop. Like the app is almost entirely made for like the user end of
Like for the
Patreon.
full desktop view.
Yeah.
So you gotta like scroll and squeeze and move all over the place. Those websites suck on your phone.
So,
It doesn't
yeah.
matter what kind of phone you have, it sucks.
So I get
hear
it
ya.
set up. And then the last thing I need to do to make the Patreon is the payment part. And I'm like, all right, this is the part that I've been putting off because I have to like, get a hold of my bank.
Because I gotta like make a quick phone call that'll take no more than 15 minutes. How long did it take to set that bank account up?
It takes like 10 to 15 minutes.
I didn't. So I didn't set it up at all. I went through with it because when I went to go to the money issues, it says that how Patreon works is it dumps it into your account automatically on the 5th of every month. And so like if I can just dump it into my regular account and then take out the money on the 5th. So I was like, I don't fucking.
Why did you need a separate account in the first place, fucko? What was wrong?
Well, it's so
Well,
that
I
way.
don't want
if-
like the Patreon money to get mixed up with like any of my automatic bill takeouts and
No,
stuff.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm
You know
I'm
what
a
I'm
freak
saying?
about my finances, so if
But
I
I
have
mean,
an account for everything, that's if I different income
So,
or whatever.
so I'll
I hear
still
ya.
set up the other free checking so I can like, cause I have mobile banking with Fifth Third. I use the app. I'll just like transfer funds from.
Stop
like,
talking about
my
this because we
primary
need.
that
You know
I'll
what?
dump in.
Now that I think about this,
Yeah,
we
so
need like
it's
a
all done.
business
Long story
account.
short, it's all done. It took 15 minutes. It was 3 years of ball busting, but it's don't applaud me.
I'm
No,
applauding.
You
You should
deserve
all
it.
be beating my ass.
I'm just so happy
Just wait
it's
till we see
finally
you.
done. I'm like, oh my god, he did it. He fucking did it. I'm in tears when you tell me that it's over with. I'm like, I fucking took us 3 years. Oh my god, he finally fucking did
It's
it.
like one of those things. Like even though you say that it happened, it's like I have to see it to believe it because it's been
Where
so
is
long.
it? Yeah,
So
he says that
there's
it's there, but he
Dickie,
hasn't
show
said
me a
his
picture.
Patreon link number 1. I basically set this whole thing up for him too. Like I was like, here's
He's
the
actually looking at a
passwords.
picture.
I wrote all the
No.
shit. I put the fucking screenshot in there. Then he's like, yeah, all right, I got it. And then fucking
Yo,
2
Luke,
years
for
later.
real though, I know what you're talking about when it just comes to just taking that swing to go do it. Thanks for
Yeah.
doing it, man. Seriously.
We appreciate
No,
it.
so just like I said, I'll get to the link when we get to the sponsors, but it's just one tier right now until we figure out more stuff or figure out a schedule so we can plan more stuff.
What are we? We're
Yeah.
doing the $5, right? That way that-
$5 tier, it'll get you access to bonus content, post episode shows with us three, either talking about the guest or just more exclusive shit. And if I can figure it out with Cody, because it was something that Patreon recommended with podcasts, if he can get it to me sooner than the night before episode upload, we
He
can
does.
do early access. We can do early access.
Motherfucker, you can't
Oh, yeah.
upload the episode on time as it begins. Well, you're gonna do early access. What they're gonna they're gonna get it on Sunday, and then our
Hey,
regular
like
listeners
you
can listen
said,
on
like you
Monday.
said.
Tuesday rather than
I'll
Friday.
use your logic. I'll use your logic. I'll use your logic. If I know I'm getting paid, it'll give me the effort to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. Also,
Well, yeah,
for people
just-
that we're starting at the $5 and only doing the $5 tier because I don't know. I've listened to a bunch of podcasts talk about this, and I kind of agree. Like, if you want the bonus content, like we're worth something, we're funny fucks. If you like us, fucking pay the $5. I don't want a bunch
Well-
of stragglers hanging out for $1 or $2. Like, if you actually give a shit, like the $5 will make a difference. And I would rather have like 3 $5 listeners other than rather than have like 20 $1 listeners, because those $1 listeners don't give as much of a fuck, and they shit all over you. You see it happen on other people. I saw it happen on Stanhope's fucking Patreon, where everybody's bitching. He was doing a everyday podcast on Patreon that was Patreon exclusive every day for 30 days, and then he was late twice, and all his people did was nonstop hammer him, like, where the fuck's the episode? What the fuck's going on? Fucking blah, 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 blah. I'm like, he's doing a 1 hour podcast half hour to 1 hour every day for 30 days. He's giving you fucks like 30 hours of content for like $1, and then these cunts have the audacity to bitch at him. I was like, this is fucking preposterous. I was like, I only want... If you open up your digital wallet and you give $5 to us, like, I feel like you're a true fucking you're a real bastard at that point. Like, you're an actual fan of us. I don't care if it's 2 of you, but I know that you guys are the ones that actually give a shit about the content. We'll make sure that you have stuff every fucking week to listen
it's going
to.
straight back into the show.
It's
and
much
honestly,
extra
I don't
stuff.
even care about the money. It inspires me to work on like one of my favorite things that I do, and I feel like once a week isn't enough.
And I'll tell you what the money's
nice
going to go
to work
to.
on it.
I'll tell you what everybody's money's going to go to. We're not going to take that fucking money out and like go do dumb shit. We're going to get better merch. We're going to commission more local artists with it.
We're
We're
going to
get a good well, that
I was
too.
just gonna
That's
say
to make
that.
us funnier. And
It's for the show.
me
It's a
more
tax
alcohol
write-off.
to make me funnier. Yeah, you write that off in the fucking the necessary work items or whatever. The IRS will let you write off because we pay taxes on this podcast. But no.
Awkward pause.
One
I
more
was
thing,
actually
but a
getting to-
video setup, a fucking video setup that we'll finally have. Luke, I know you were about to say something. Go ahead, but I have something right after you because I wanted to clarify something I said in the last episode.
With the merch, for the people who go ahead and do that $5 tier, that money will get obviously put back into the podcast with hardware, but mostly merch. And if we could, obviously I know we're going to get a bunch of support, but if we get enough, we could do a $10 tier where they'll get discounts on merch. And Patrick, I can communicate this with you next time we're in person, or if you want to look at it on your own. But Patreon does have a merchandise shipping and whatnot deal where they'll help us with that. So if we could, we'll get there eventually, is what I'm saying. We'll be able to ship the merch to you quicker, faster, and with a discount. It'll be cool.
Yeah. Also, I said last episode, I hope you guys know almost all the time. I hate that I ever have to say this.
Attention, damn it.
Sorry, I was messaging Substantial. He didn't receive our Zoom confirmation, so I'm telling him like, hey, we'll message you.
Right
here
on. I was getting to
shortly.
something. Anyways, so last episode I was fucking talking about how God, I lost my whole train of thought. We got Jesus, guys. Last episode I said, yeah, we could do what other podcasts do and fucking do the exact same amount of podcast time and cut it in half. I'm kidding. We're not going to fuck you guys like that. You'll still get the same length of regular bastard stuff. You don't want to contribute to the Patreon. We get it, dude. It's hard times for everybody right now. Hard to ask people to open up their digital wallet, but it's there if you do want to donate. We're going to give you the same amount of free content that we always give you. I mean, you're not losing anything because we're doing Patreon now. I was 100,000% just kidding. We're going to do the same amount of time. We have a system figured out. You'll actually get a bonus content podcast on every podcast that we do. So we shut this thing off. We start recording at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. We usually shut it off at about 9:30ish or whatever. So whenever we shut it off, we'll give you 2 straight hours of free content, and after that, we're going to record another hour after that podcast in the same time of bonus Patreon content. So you'll get the same amount of bastard sermon as always. 100,000% just fucking around when I said that I was going to cut this podcast in half and then sell you the other half that you used to get for free. I fucking hate it when shows do that. We're not going to do that to you. So,
No.
yeah, there you go.
We're going to have really cool, weird shit. One thing that I want to shout out real quick that, speaking of Cringe Corner, we were going to release the Carver experience on that, right?
Yeah.
Dude,
We
you
were going
guys
to put it
gotta
out a
listen
bunch
to
of
this.
times.
It is something else. Just, you got to listen. You can't miss that.
You might, if you listen closely, be able to hear the panic attack happening.
It's harder to hear it than it was to feel it in the room, though. I went back and listened to it since then. You don't pick up on it as much.
You really don't, because I didn't know it was like happening at all, really, up until it was that really obvious point where he was like,
That was right at the beginning. You can kind of hear it when he
like,
stumbles over
what
his
the-
words. But when there's not a video for it, you can't really see it as well. Like, you have to almost be in the room to see what we were feeling. It's not actually that bad of an episode, but I don't know. It's just
It's weird.
uncomfortable, and we were just trying to rush. You could hear
And
in our
untrained.
voices. What do
We're
you mean?
very untrained. It was very early.
What was it, like episode 12 or something? It was supposed to be episode like 12 or 13. We just got rid of it. I don't know. John Matheny was hitting me up talking about old episodes because I guess whatever podcast app that he was listening on originally, it was like Google or something like that. Like Google, I don't know what apps were on. Some Google Music podcast. It only has like episode 80 on, which I don't fucking understand why it would do that. But he went to some other app and then listened to the very early episodes, and he was asking me a bunch of questions about old episodes that I forgot about, and I was like, because I don't know, if you're a fan, hit me up, message me on Facebook, I'll talk to you, whatever. There's only a few of you that are real fans that give that much of a shit, so I'll answer your fucking questions. And John hits me up all the time about podcast shit. Like, he'll be listening to like episode 10 or some shit that I haven't listened to in forever, talking about how funny it was and like giving me feedback on shit that I haven't thought about for 2.5 years. And then he was talking about episodes that we deleted, and I was like, oh, you're talking about the Carver experience. And he's like, no, I know about that, but he was like, what about the episodes before the podcast started? And I was like, oh, those episodes are dog shit. The in this basement where I'm coming from right now, but I didn't have a real mic, no H6. We had the snowball that Luke's recording on.
I still have one of those.
For 3 people to talk around while we're sitting here, like, Pat just got out of that fucking relationship with that bitch or whatever. Like, he hadn't met Rachel yet. Like, we didn't even know what we were doing. I don't even know if we had a name. Should we put those out on Patreon?
Really? I didn't know that. I thought Patrick was with Rachel the entire time I knew him. I had no idea.
Yeah, well, I was dating up before the podcast.
You had just met her then. You just met
like
Rachel.
right at the beginning. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was
When
gonna
we
say, like,
first
I
started-
thought they were together for like 2 years before I ever met. You know, like-
No. It was
like-
right at the beginning of the podcast, though.
Well,
Right
they
at the-
still had that super nice loft that had like all the accoutrements of like they've been living here for a long time, you know. Like
Well, that
they
was
have
a-
We
books
just have a lot of shit.
of shit that they probably never looked at. You
Well, that
know,
was
and
8 months after we started. That was 8 months after we started, though, because you got to remember the first couple episodes that we did in the attic, we'd already been podcasting for half a year at that point, just in my
you're
basement
right.
talking shit. That's what I'm talking about.
You're right. We did like 6 months of practice. Shit.
I
yeah.
have a lot of that. Should we put some of that out on the Patreon? Is
Yeah,
that
for sure.
Yeah, why
for
not?
sure.
Well, you guys say
think
yeah,
so.
but I'm kind of asking the fans. Like, if you guys listen, tell us, post about it.
Tell us in the Discord.
You know where to
I
go.
I have one on my phone of a basement episode of the early days of us three.
Yeah. Well,
Like
let's.
before we had a mic or anything.
I mean, we
just
can put up a
off
bunch
the
of that
phone.
shit. Like, I want to give people their money's worth. Like, if we're gonna charge $5 a pop, like, I feel like I want people to actually like get something out of this. So
Get me that Carver experience, and the moment this episode drops, you guys will be able to go to the website and like buy the tier. We'll have it ready. I'll have the Carver up there for you guys.
right on. Pat, is everything good with our guest? Pat looks like he's in a different world communicating with somebody. right
Sorry,
now.
he's good. He thought it was at a different time, so he's just trying to make sure everything's good and we're good to go.
What time did he think it was?
7.
Oh, do you want to just have him on
Yeah.
now? Let's just have him on now. Tell him. It's fine.
Yeah, let's see.
No, it's all good. If he needs to come on now, we'll do it.
Yeah, you want to go to a quick break and I'll talk to him?
Yeah, dude, let's do that. We'll be
Let's do
right
it.
the fuck
We'll
back.
be right back.
All right, guys, we're back. Pat, introduce the guest that you got on today for us.
So tonight we have on a fucking awesome badass musician, Substantial, who
Thank you.
decided to grace us with his presence. And thanks, man, for coming on.
Thanks for
seriously.
coming on. Give it up, boys.
Super stoked.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having
Love
me.
to clap
guys.
for people.
Nobody can hear the clap now that it's on Zoom. Everything's all quiet. People used to be able to hear it when we had our studio. Pat's the only one with a nice studio experience. And
Right.
Substantial's over here. Everything looks phenomenal in the room that you're in. You got the pop
thank you,
guard.
man.
Everything's all set up. Like, everything looks great.
Man, listen, I had to, I mean, it was, well, thank you first. It was pretty decent before all of this, this crazy shit in the world started happening. But yeah, definitely had to make a lot of upgrades just to make sure I could handle like all of the different stuff I had to do
Oh, yeah.
during the pandemic. So yeah, man.
You were
Seems
saying
like
that
you're
you...
literally always working on something. When I follow your Instagram, I feel like, dude, this dude is grinding right
Man.
now.
Yeah, oh, thank you, man. Yeah, it's I mean, I don't like to make the statement that well, it's never really work if you love it, and I mean it's work, but I mean it's easier when you love it. So I'm doing what I
Yeah.
love to do and get to do it full time. So
Is that...
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is that behind you? Is that an LP collection? What do you got going on back there in that
Yeah,
bookshelf?
yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome,
so-
man. You must
That's
have like what do you got, like
incredible.
300
It's-
records in there?
Oh, it's more than that. It's the bottom is covered right now. The bottom has another row of records, and then under that is comics in the middle, and then I think just like different supplies, like different wires and stuff for the studio and all of that on the outskirts. But yeah, man. Yeah, and a huge pillow, like a bag that's virtually a pillow of earbuds. I mean, what's it? Yeah, something like that.
What do you
Not
got
even
to
hair, something. I can't remember what the hell it is, but it's a lot of shit back there.
What kind of
Yeah.
system do you have to play all that shit on? Because I know, like, the real audiophiles, like, shout out our dudes Nick Glavin and Anthony Tank Mansfield, also the sponsor of the podcast. I know they're big audiophiles, like, in our area, and they've got these crazy,
Sure.
like, systems where they can play all their LPs. Nick's just getting into vinyls and shit. And what do you
Yeah.
have some crazy shit? Like, I feel like you got to be a
So-
real audiophile. So
Some
you got
one
some
of a
crazy
kind
shit,
gold
I
right?
got-
record.
No, so I don't. I'm in between quality turntables right now. I have 2 turntables in the house. One is portable. It's this little portable Vestax here, and then has stuff that my daughter threw and it slides off. My youngest, and then I have another one in my oldest daughter's room. She has the other turntable, and so I have this super. I'm not gonna brag too much, but I have a really, really nice needle that I have been shopping around trying to find the right turntable to fit this needle that I was given as a gift on one of my Japan trips, and I just haven't found the right turntable yet that like is as nice as I'd like and works with that needle. So I'm trying to work it out, man. But hopefully, if we do this again, hopefully I'll finally have that in place. But we'll see. But
I just want to say, I want you to brag. I want you to
Yeah.
brag about all the cool shit you got
Please.
going on. I want to learn all about it, man. You are
Man.
always working. I know you got some cool fucking stories.
Oh man, yeah, been around the block a few times, so
The way I actually discovered who you were is like I drew up I gave you the picture. I think you may have gotten it already. The Samurai
Yes.
Champloo.
I think it's my daughter. We're getting a frame because she's hanging it in her room she collects all
right
of the
on.
fan art I get.
That's
Yeah,
so
man.
cool.
It-
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I got into cowboy. I'm new to anime, so I got into
Ah.
Cowboy Bebop, fell in love with the
Classic.
music, and it kind of changed my whole opinion and how I
Mm.
felt about music, especially
Wow.
because I'm a metal guy, and I really fell in love with like jazz. I can't stop listening to jazz now, and then I got
Jazz
into
is
lo-fi
amazing.
as Samurai Champloo came around. Because I
Mhm.
like Cowboy Bebop, I like Samurai Champloo because they were both, you know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I got into Najubes, and
Nujabes.
Nujabes.
Yeah.
Obviously,
all good.
Pat
right
didn't
around
get
me.
that into him. 'cause
No
he doesn't
one
even
has
know how to
ever
say
said
his
that right
fucking
about me.
name.
So I was wondering tonight. I was like, I'm gonna say this wrong. I know it. I swear. I think I got it, but
Yeah.
I knew I'd butcher it. So
It's cool,
thanks
man.
He could
Either
have
way.
he could have YouTubed like
I know, right?
any interview with any of the artists.
you-
Like Lord Jamar is always on like Vlad TV talking about it. Like
Yeah. So
Well-
the funny thing is, most people who listen to Nujabes, they prefer his. People listen to the songs with us rapping on it, but it's people listen to the instrumentals a lot. So
Yeah.
like the songs with us rapping on it, like I always say his name on tracks. And so does Pace Rock and stuff like that, and of course some of the other guys, but his instrumentals are like what he's known for. So if you're a person who
Yeah.
listens to mostly that, you probably don't know how to say the name. You know,
All-
it happens all
Well,
the
I
time.
listen to it all the time, and I don't know shit, man. I'm just that bad.
I was
but
trying to help you out. I was trying to help you. Throw your
I'm not
life
scared.
He
word.
gave you an
Shame me,
accent.
dude.
He gave you an accent, and you just kept walking into the fire.
Right.
Come on,
Hey,
dude.
I'm
This
just
is your
saying.
fault at this point, Pat.
I don't care. It's fine. Whatever.
Like, but
I
the
still
flame
love the
is
music.
beautiful. Look how beautiful the flame is. I'm gonna keep flying into it.
Like a moth to the flame. That's
right.
I gotta know, man. Out of all of like the works you've done for
Sure.
anime, which one is one of your favorite?
So the funny thing is, right? Like I have a deep love for anime. I haven't done any music officially for anime. I've done a lot of stuff for games, but not for anime yet. So, because a lot of times people, because of the connection with Nujabes, and because I'm at like almost all of the local anime conventions and stuff. So people they see Samurai Champloo and they know Nujabes, and then they associate that with me. Yeah, so a lot of times people think I already got. I wish I'm working on it, but not yet. But yeah, but definitely a decent amount of video games, man. I've completed like maybe like 4 video game tracks this year so far.
What are you working on? What games
shout
are you
'em out.
doing? Can you talk
Spoiler
about it?
alert.
Sure.
Let's hear it.
Sure. So the ones I can talk about was I did something for Arc Knights, which is it's a game that came out in China. Initially, I didn't know how big it was because I'm just looking at how it's doing here in the U.S. and it seemed like a decent amount of people knew. And then I got word of how big a deal it was in China. And then the song came out. Song got a million views on YouTube or whatever. So I was like, damn, this game is pretty popular. Okay. And then I found out that there's like I forget what China's version of, they have something similar to YouTube. And apparently the song has like over 20 million views on that platform. And so, yeah, man, so that was exciting.
That's cool.
And they asked me to recently do an additional song for that game. So I did that. The other 3, I don't know how close they are to finishing it yet, so I can't I don't want to violate the NDA, but
Right.
yeah, one of them is really, really popular. Like
Call of Duty,
no,
Just kidding. Halo,
right
is it
now.
Halo?
So it's like it's a mobile game. I can say that it's a mobile game that like people have seen commercials for it. It's to the point where a lot of my buddies who don't game at all, like when I said privately to like 1 or 2 friends or whatever, who I know can keep secrets, they knew exactly what the hell I was talking about, which was crazy to me because I know
That's cool.
they don't play games at all. So they're a bit boring when it comes to that stuff.
That's pretty wild, man. That's
you
super
had-
cool to say you can do that. You've done it.
Oh man, it's a
done that
blessing,
stuff.
man. It's it definitely gets me points with the kids. So you know what I mean? Like my daughter thinks I'm pretty cool. So that
Like,
doesn't
oh, my dad works in Nintendo or something, but it's more like
Right.
my dad did music for Nintendo.
Yeah. There's a retro game that's coming out called Renane. They crowdfunded it about a year or 2 ago, and that's actually dropping on the Nintendo Switch. As soon
I
as
read
it
about that.
pops up stuff. Yeah.
Super
So
cool.
that one's pretty exciting. And another game is a South Korean game called Tree of Savior.
Yeah.
So like it's a PC game. So like yeah, man, it's fun. You know what I mean? It's definitely a different process.
Do you know who Mick Gordon is?
I've heard that name. I just don't know where I know it from.
So you know the game Doom?
Yes.
And like Doom
yes.
Eternal and all that. The guy who
Sure.
did the metal soundtrack, his name is
Ah.
Mick Gordon, and he did it all himself, I think. And he had like a bunch of metal vocalists come up and
Wow.
do his part of the soundtrack and stuff. And I just think like, how much work is it to have like these corporate people breathe down your neck to tell you what like how many songs do you really have to write,
Dude.
for a game? Is
It's
what
not.
I'm
It's
curious
not
of.
even how many songs. It's like so. All right. So if you're a studio that focuses on this, so I've had the opportunity to work with a few different studios that basically just do sound. They do audio for games.
Yeah.
So initially, I'm just walking in there with my music hat on, right? But dude, they're doing the sound effects. Like every sound that you hear in the game, this one place is responsible for. And so, and usually by the time they call me in, they've got, they got the characters, the voice actors who do the talking. They've already got the sound effects and all of that. And then the music, they're just kind of getting to eventually, like further down the road. And so, dude, like I guess the way I first started it, they would send me the music. They give me breakdowns of the characters, what character I'm supposed to represent or what story they want me to tell. And initially, I'd get the music. They tell me what areas they want me to kind of come in on. If there's another vocalist, what they want me to do with their stuff. And I'm so used to just, I feel it, I write, I record, and I send. And man, like, dude, like, I don't know how many rewrites like I've had to do, like doing this type of stuff, which it happens sometimes when I'm working on like music with other musicians to put out into the world, but not like my experience for writing for games. It's like, so I've learned now that when I write something, I send it and get it approved first before I
Yeah.
go record. Because you know, the game might be violent as fuck, right? Like it might be just a super crazy violent game, but they don't necessarily want me saying things related to the violence in the game. Like, yeah, we don't want to promote certain violence to. I'm like, you know, the character like kills 10
This is
people.
Gears of
He
War.
takes a
in the
chainsaw and he
intro.
hacks this man's head off and then pisses down his spine. But like, don't say fuck in the song, like, because
Yeah,
serious
yeah,
problems
like-
with that.
Say heck.
Yeah. And then of course, if you know you're dealing with certain countries that have, you know, depending on how the politics in that country is, you have to be careful with certain language. Nothing nothing too revolutionary sounding. You know, it's
Wow,
man,
that's
it's,
something else.
dude. There's a lot. You know what I mean? There's a lot. I mean, I can only talk about so much of it, but like, yeah, there's a lot to consider. It's there's
a
definitely
big-
a lot of constraints.
That puts a
you
big
know?
weight on your shoulder almost.
Sure.
You
sure.
know, I'm
But
just thinking like, wow, like things that I could say could really affect that kind of shit.
Yeah, but you know, it's the crazy thing is, I think a lot of time rap gets a bad rap, right? Like where people think that there's some rappers who clearly don't give a shit, right? Like they're not thinking about those things when they write. They just write what they want to write, which I think is true of musicians across all genres. But I think sometimes people think that rappers don't understand the weight of what they say because of the fact that what the media tends to push to the forefront is clearly artists who don't really give a fuck what they say. You know what I mean? But hip hop has always been political, right? Like has always it was kind of birthed out of like the idea of revolution and all of these different things and making something out of nothing. So yeah, man, I definitely, you know, when I write just songs in general, whether I'm writing for a video game, I'm always thinking about the weight of what I'm saying. And, you know, it's the reason why I stopped using certain words in my music. I mean, I curse in my music, but there's certain words I just stay away from.
What words specifically? Like, what do you not?
Yeah. So I literally, you know, I think it's pretty common to hear, you know, like artists who talk about certain things dealing with struggle or who grew up a certain way using the N-word a lot in their music. And I absolutely have plenty of times. However, basically after I put out my first album, because it was a Japanese label, it was Hideout Production, Nujabes's company, they took my lyrics and they spell checked my lyrics back then. And it took everything that basically spelled it with the A at the end, all of the N-words, it took every one of them that spelled it with an A at the end and flipped it to ER.
Jesus.
And then they literally put thousands of these out there, right? Like my first album sold that, like lots of copies in circulation.
God
and I'd be
damn.
traveling to different places around the world performing, and people would bring the cover art to me and be like, yeah, man, so I got a question, bro. Like, how come, like I heard how you said it,
Jesus.
but how it's written in here, I'm like, yeah. So after that happened, I literally, I think there's maybe 2 records where you can hear me saying it probably a lot, and it was early 20s when I didn't really care as much about shit like that. You know, like, yeah, like after those records, the only time you'll hear me say the word is if like for that particular line, it's the only word that makes sense for the content or the subject matter, right?
Like if you're telling a story or something, and you're quoting somebody. Or...
Yeah, right. So I'm very like, so stuff like that. You know, you don't really hear me like saying bitch in songs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I'm one of 7 siblings and I got 5 sisters. You know what I mean? So like this type of stuff get you punched in the face in my house. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, and it's not that I haven't said it in songs, but like more than likely, if you heard me saying it in the song, I was probably talking about a guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, and then I grow up and I married my wife and I have 2 daughters, right? So I'm protective of certain things and I'm very conscious of those things. I'm not perfect by any means, but it's just certain things there's a lot of words out here. You know what I mean? I can get my point across in other ways.
I think it shows a lot of like discipline on your part, because I've had other people, because I don't have that. I say crazy shit all the time. Like obviously not the N-word. Like I'm a pale face. I'm not some racist. So obviously not that one. But like I'll say like cunt and bitch and all this crazy shit all the
Mhm.
time, like, and I
Right.
don't care because I'm trying to be funny or I think I'm being cute or some
Sure,
stupid
sure.
shit because I have no discipline in my life. Like, I don't like as far as like not being like wasted around my children. Like, I don't
Right,
have a
right.
lot of like I don't have a lot of like boundaries and stuff like that. But I notice the people that do that
Mm.
take themselves a level of more serious, like, get more things accomplished. That's why that's
Mm,
why you have a
mm.
Wikipedia and I don't. Like, you have shit going on. Look at this nice room. I'm sure the rest of your house looks as nice. You gotta just like looking at what you have right now. You seem like you have everything like clean and true. Like, you can kind of like feel that energy about you when that
Man.
discipline about you, and it shows. Like, when you have
Thank you,
those
man.
certain like boundaries and moral lines and stuff like that. That's not
Mm.
my life, and that's fine that like you're different than I am. But I kind of respect when somebody has something like that because
Man, thank you, man.
Yeah.
I respect it a lot. It's you see it with a very rare select, or at least from like my music taste.
Mhm.
It's rare to see rappers take that mental maturity throughout their career. Like you'll see like some rappers, especially like Common, you'll see
Mhm.
some of it like like they'll be more aggressive in the early years and then
Mhm.
have more positivity or a meaning to a song in the later years.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
it's really interesting to see, like I this is where I am in my life. I have, 7 other siblings. I have a wife and a daughter. I don't want
Mhm.
to have to say bitch all the time. I don't want to disrespect them, so I'm bringing that
Right.
into my music. Like that's something you wouldn't really see a whole lot, and that's incredible.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I mean, if you're blessed enough to, I think sometimes we don't always we cherish our youth, right? And we celebrate our youth, but we don't necessarily celebrate growing old, right? Outside of
Right.
birthdays per se, right? So I think with that age with all the salt and pepper that's coming in, right? Like, man, I've seen a lot. You know what I mean? Like I've seen a lot. I've survived a lot, and there were plenty of things that was in the mix when I was younger, and plenty of wild shit that I did when I was younger that I was blessed enough to survive, and a good amount of my homies, same thing for them, and so that it's like being able to kind of look back at the things I did and understand that while some of it was, just shits and giggles, just having fun, doing wild shit, other things, there were moments where I genuinely, I said this in a different interview, man. There was a period of time where I didn't see myself living past a certain age because
Yeah.
there were plenty of people in my circle or people I knew that was the experience, right? Like that's what happened to people from here, right? Like not everybody, but a good amount. And so, and then when you're young, you don't necessarily celebrate growing old. So when you see old people, depending on what your upbringing is, like it's a
Yeah.
joke almost, right? Like we joke about them and like, oh look at this old crusty ass, you know what I mean? Like just disrespectful shit. And so but like man, as I'm getting there and being able to go back into my community and see the changes that have happened over the years for better and for worse, and then being able to speak to people where I'm from and being able to have what I had, man, having a amazing woman in my life. I told her earlier today, I was like, yo, y'all are just better people than men, yo. Like we fucking suck. Real shit, man. Like y'all complimenting how the crib look. Trust, I mean, some of this, yes, was my idea, but it's also like, I maintain it because, it's I understand that there are certain things that are important to her that maybe isn't as important to me.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
ain't just gotta keep the house clean because we got guests coming over. Because ain't nobody been in this motherfucker since like February, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
since before
I
then.
totally understand that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm one of the older guys in this group here.
Sure.
And I just bought a
29.
house and I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, I have a house now, and like ever since you get that kind of stuff, like you just get older and you realize all that dumb shit, it really didn't matter, but you also wouldn't be where you are today if that stuff didn't happen. You
Yeah,
grew
for
from it.
sure.
You're like aging gracefully, almost in
Right.
a way.
Right.
At least that's the way I would think of it. Is that you think of it as a bloom? Like everyone always tells you your 30s is going to be the best years of your life or whatever,
Hmm.
and that's just what I've heard.
Yeah.
And so I'm like coming to the age of accepting it. I don't
Yeah.
keep my house clean because guests are coming over, like you said. Like I'm just keeping it clean because I got responsibilities and I
Right.
accept that,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
grew from that.
it's wild because you know you guys are complimenting this, but if you could see the side of the room I'm looking at, shit looks terrible. You know what I'm saying? It looks terrible, and it's like because I'm in work mode right now. I'm like
Yeah.
close to mix. I'm mixing and mastering our project that's getting ready to drop, and so yeah, I'm just like tunnel vision, and then I'll clean when all this shit is done. You know?
Oh yeah.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
let's move away from the house. Tell us about that new project, man. I want to hear about this. You were
Sure.
saying
Yeah,
that
what is
off,
that?
Mike. Let's go right into that.
Yeah, sure, man. So yeah, we me and my partner Marcus D, shout out to him. We are working on Winter Breaks 2. It's the follow up to the first Winter Breaks project, which came out 2014. It's a holiday themed hip hop album, but not like cheesy like rap renditions of Jingle Bells
Not
and
gonna hear
corny
it at a
shit like
mall
that.
or
Not
anything?
not probably. Well, you know.
What about
stranger
Gucci
things
Mane
have
trapping through the snow? How
I
do you
mean,
not
you know,
appreciate
listen,
that?
anything's possible, right? But no, we yeah, man, what we do is we take like real issues and real subject matter that is around the holidays, right? Like things that we deal with around the holidays, and we put it in the song form. Like, you know, so I mean, we celebrate the holidays and we talk about how like, oh, you know, there's songs that call it the most wonderful time of the year and things like that. But I remember working in education. I work as an educator. I still like do some teaching as well. But um, you know, I remember working in the school system and them telling us that, yo, like once November hits, that's when shit gets kind of dark around here, right? Like, because there are plenty of kids that we would work. I work with a lot of you know, what they call at-risk youth. And so over the years working with that particular group, like the holidays sometimes, you know, creates a lot of depression for some people if they don't have the best situations or if you're living in poverty and things like that. So, you know, so us, it's not like we're making a depressing ass like holiday album per se, but we don't go in with blinders on like let's just celebrate, let's just talk about snow and like gifts and you know and decorating the tree and shit like that. You know, we talk about, we mentioned those things like on the last album they had a song called Hottest Christmas on Record, but then there was also and so that talked about what if you're a person who doesn't know what the hell a white Christmas is because you live in Florida, right? You still celebrate Christmas, like, you know, y'all got lights in your palm trees and shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, and and you know what I mean? Like, you know, blow up snowmen on your manicured lawn and shit. You know what I mean? So it's a different experience for other people, but we kind of get this very one-sided version of holiday music. So the project, you know, we had songs like that. We had another song on the last project called Spent, which talked about it literally was a song about Black Friday and just talking about like, you know, the crazy shit that people do during that day, and we're supposed to be about giving and this, that, and the third, but all we care about is what the fuck people do for us. And
Yeah.
so,
True.
but it took a kind of comedic, like they were like, you know, some little funny moments, but it was serious subject matter. So, you know, so the last record jumped into things like that, and then I also celebrate Kwanzaa. So, you know, some of the songs talked about Christmas, some of the songs talked about the New Year, and some of the songs talked about Kwanzaa. And
Can
what
you
that's
tell us about Kwanzaa? Because I don't know
Yeah, I
shit
don't know
about.
anything
I don't
about
know
it.
anything about Kwanzaa.
Sure.
Yeah.
All good. So yeah, so Kwanzaa is an African American holiday that started in the '60s. Dr. Karenga created it as a tool to help build up the Black community here in the United States. And basically, there's 7 days of Kwanzaa, right? And so sometimes when you see people talking about Kwanzaa in a public setting, where you got the assholes who jump in the chat and the crazy comments, you'll see people say stupid shit like, you know, oh, it's a made up holiday. The concept of the holiday in general is a made up concept,
made
right?
up.
That's a
It's all
fact.
made up.
The
Yeah.
whole
Right,
thing,
so-
everything
so-
is. Yeah.
Yes. So you know, someone was brave enough to say that, hey, there are some issues that we have in our community, and I believe that there are some principles that we can follow. That if we apply these principles to our lives, and they aren't these completely foreign things, because they were things that were a part of our ancestors' past in terms of like what these principles represent. And we could take these things from our past and introduce them in the present and help build up our community. So Kwanzaa, every day of Kwanzaa has a different principle. And so, for example, there's the Nguzo Saba, which is basically the seven principles. And The first one is Umoja, which is Swahili for unity. And then you just go down through the different days, and every day, like the next is Kujijakalia, which means self-determination. And so when we meet up on these days, it's not just about sharing gifts, congregating, and eating. We literally we have we take moments where we ask for the elder in the room, like whoever the eldest in the room, they give whoever is leading the discussion permission to speak, and then from there we do everything from acknowledge our ancestors who may have passed on to talk about what that particular principle of the day is and how we can apply that to our lives and our communities and how we can move through the year embodying these principles. And so it's something I've celebrated for about, like, I want to say almost 20 years, like maybe like between 15 and 18 years, something like that. But it was introduced to me by my uncle Aziza, then when I was maybe shit, man, I was probably like 6 or 7, maybe a little bit older than that. But I didn't celebrate until I was an adult and really could understand what it was about. So it just basically it gives the holiday real purpose, and it keeps people focused. Like, I feel like with Christmas, I don't have, and the dope thing about it is a cultural holiday, so you can celebrate Christmas and still celebrate Kwanzaa, right? But the biggest difference is, Kwanzaa seems very focused. Whenever I go to Kwanzaa celebrations, like, everyone for the most part understands why we're here, right? And the conversation is very centered around that. And what's dope is the youngest kids in the room, unless they're babies, if they're able to talk, they're participating in the conversation too. So they get to chime in and talk about what unity looked like to them. All of this really, dude, it's powerful, man. It's a truly
Sounds beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Let me tell you right now, that's way fucking cooler than Christmas. Boring old Christmas. As like, I'm a loud individual, as the other two can say, but like compared to my other family who are largely Irish and Italian, they're loud as fuck. You come to the family get together, everyone's arguing for like the last month as to whose house is gonna host it in the first place.
Sure.
And then you gotta show up, and if motherfuckers don't show up with food, someone's getting bitched out behind someone's back because someone so didn't bring, potato salad and shit like that. and then like and then there's the gift giving, and someone gets mad if someone bought the same gift as someone else. And dude, that's way cooler and more fulfilling than regular boring ass Christmas.
Yeah,
man.
Man, it's powerful, man. So I use this project, the Winter Breaks Project, as an opportunity to make songs about a holiday that largely is unknown to a good amount of the world, right? And so the new project has a song called Same Energy, and then in parentheses Kwanzaa 365, basically taking the idea or the concept of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa and basically saying that this ain't some shit for just these 7 days. Like, this is what life should be about. And like your year, your day to day you need to embody understand what unity is, understand what self-determination, cooperative, the importance of cooperative economics, the importance of collective work and responsibility, creativity, purpose, faith, all of these different things, because those are all the principles of Kwanzaa. So like, dude, man, it's probably, I mean, I've given a lot to my children, but I feel like one of the things I'm most proud that I've introduced into their lives is that,
That's infinitely better than the shit I got, let me tell you. I mean, not to be like ungrateful for my Christmases at all, but man, there's just so much like hidden and buried like behind the curtain anxiety.
It's like a weird
and
competition
rage.
almost.
But, like in Christmas, like as someone who grew up like, not nearly as well off as they would have liked, especially with their family, and to have the frustrations and angers that my parents got around those holidays to try to get money, like having something like that to at least bring everyone together instead of having like a little bit of resentment would have been way better.
Sure.
Way nicer.
And I mean, a good example of what I'm saying in terms of what you're saying, right, is like, I mean, I remember, I felt like this in the last few years sometimes where like, we got to travel. I got to bring like, you know, my wife and I got to fund 4 people flying across the country to go see someone else during the holiday, but simultaneously also make sure that we have gifts for our each other, our children, and whoever else we're going to potentially see during that holiday.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's a lot,
Yeah.
right? And then like, even if they're good people who really don't give a shit and they just want to see you, the guilt that you feel, right? Like, I've shed, as a grown man, I've shed real fucking tears because I felt so guilty that I wasn't able to do this thing that I've been made to feel like I have to do it. Like,
Yeah.
even if I don't really celebrate it, if I'm there, I'm supposed to participate. And I was like, I could have just brought a dish. Nah, I'm expected to give you some shit that I wrapped and paid for, and while
crazy.
simultaneously making sure all of these kids got their shit, and then do something for my wife that in the 20 years of plus years of us being together that I haven't done for her already. That's a lot of fucking pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched
But
my.
I never feel like that. I've never felt like that ever celebrating Kwanzaa ever. You know what I mean? And
That's a
Sounds
beautiful
stress-free
thing.
and empowering.
How
Yeah.
does someone who's white incorporate Kwanzaa into their holidays?
So I think what is like, so I'm not, I would say if you have friends who celebrate Kwanzaa,
Yeah.
I think it's not like, because it's technically it's African centered, right? So I would say I'd say learn about it, learn about the principles and what those principles represent, and start having conversations around that, right? Because it's
Okay.
kind of hard, like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's impossible for white folks to celebrate it, like, it's like, because it's not a
It doesn't
whole-
make sense though for white folks to celebrate it because it's more of like appreciating black culture, like with
right
other black
Right.
people. Like like you can appreciate it and learn about it as a white person, but it's just not. It's not
Yes.
yours to be a part of. It's like when you. It's like when you help Black Lives Matter out. It's like, yeah, you're doing that because you support their move, but that's not your movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. There, you said it perfectly.
All right.
That's-
Well, then I'll just wave from the window outside.
Yeah, but you know, but if you happen, I mean,
Looking
man,
sad, like, can I join?
right,
It's snowing, Luke's crying, one single tear.
right.
Sad violin music, world's tiniest
Right.
violin.
Yeah, man. But you guys, man, you'd absolutely. We're besides working on that project, my wife and our business, we're actually putting together this virtual Kwanzaa celebration. So you guys could technically watch it on YouTube, man. You could just check out Substantial Art and Music on YouTube. And literally during Kwanzaa, y'all could check it out for yourself and just see.
You got
like,
it for Oculus?
Oculus. No,
No, I'm
it's-
kidding. I wanted it to be super interactive.
I was like, no, let me check with my tech people, guys.
We got a VR setup.
Right, but nah, it's gonna be dope, man. We got
Where do they go to check that out, man? What's the link?
Yeah, it's gonna be on December 26th. You could go to subartandmusic.com to get more info. And yeah, man, the last time we did it, local news came out and covered the event. We had a couple hundred people check it out, and it was dope. This year, because of the pandemic, it's completely virtual, but we'll still have the same elements. We'll have there'll be a presentation by myself and my co-host, my man Victorious. That's his real name.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's everybody calls him Brother Victorious, but yeah, that's my homie. He basically is co-hosting it with me. We'll give like a brief history and explanation of Kwanzaa, because every time we've ever done a Kwanzaa event, there's always someone where it's their first time. And so we'll give some history. There'll be performances. There'll be like commercials by various black-owned businesses and stuff, which is the whole cooperative economics part of Kwanzaa. And then there'll be if you got young kids and stuff like that, there's storytelling. We have 2 different educators who are storytellers as well, so there'll be that. I'll be doing a performance of some of this songs from the Winter Breaks projects, and and we have an amazing vocalist, Tamara Wellens, who's doing something too, man, like who's a jazz vocalist and also house, and she
Man, what a
can do it
lot
all.
of talent. That's
Dude.
super cool.
Yeah, man, it's good shit.
Exciting, man.
You know.
You were telling us before we got on the mics with you that The collective group that you have, because Substantial is your rapper name, but it's also your
Yes.
music collective, right? The one that you do with your wife, the one where you're like promoting music constantly. You said that you were telling people about COVID and preparing them for it before COVID. Can you get into that?
Yes,
So we weren't necessarily telling them specifically about the the ongoing or up and coming pandemic, right? But what we were telling them, because basically, so my company, Substantial Art and Music, my wife and I have a business together. We're a consulting service / multimedia company, and we do a lot of consultation and we do a lot of workshops. So prior to all of this happening, we go around the country speaking in different locations. And one of the things we tell creatives all the time is like, look, if you're a creative that relies solely on having to physically show up somewhere to present what you do and make money, you're always going to be limited because something can happen at any given moment that strips that thing away from you, and now you got to figure out a different way to pivot. So we would talk to them about the importance of diversifying their revenue streams and passive income, all of these different things, just in case something happens and forces us to pivot and have to find another way to survive. Because ultimately, I made that a conscious decision to do exactly that with my career in about I think it was 2017, where I got more focused on passive income so I could be home more and didn't have to tour as much. I didn't know this shit was coming, but I knew the possibility that something could happen in the world. I mean, hell, I've been on tour where they're like, I was in France at an airport in Paris, walked in and was greeted with like a guy with, we were greeted with M16s and we're like, yeah, they're waving us like, yeah, y'all need to stay on that side. We're like, oh shit.
What?
Jesus
like,
Christ.
dude.
What?
So, and it's like, and meanwhile, they're like making everyone in the airport like move to one side of the airport.
Was that all because of COVID? That was all
pre-COVID. But that's my point. Like at that particular point, depending on what happened, the rest of our tour could have been done. Like thousands of dollars lost, right?
Yeah.
What would I have done? You know what I mean? Like all of the investments made into that, and and because now I can't perform, this is all lost revenue. So again, I was wrapping my brain around the potential of something happening that could ultimately stop like how we make money. And so, and I mean, you can't find a truly successful like like a millionaire or like these like really well off companies or corporations that doesn't have a good amount of their company relying on some form of passive income, so to speak. I mean, money being made while you sleep, right? A good amount of wealthy people you'll talk to, or like different people you'll learn from in the business sector talk heavily about that. And I didn't necessarily see a lot of people in my community talking about that. So the more I learned about it and the more my wife learned about it, we made it a mission of ours to make sure that was a part of every presentation we would give. And the last one we gave was in Honolulu back in February, right? Like, and then it's crazy. We come back to this area and one of our clients was trying to get their website launched and was trying to figure out their whole e-commerce situation before it took off. And so we literally finished her e-commerce site just in time because, every festival that she was going to sell her stuff at was canceled. So had she had no e-commerce site, had she had not prepared herself to be able to move her what she sells online, her business would have folded just like so many other businesses. So
how intuitive.
Oh man.
Have you ever listened to there was a really good podcast that Joe Rogan did with Kevin Hart where he was talking about like similar things about like coming up with like property investments and whatnot stuff, like you were talking about money while you sleep. Like he's like, yeah, I mean, I own the property, but I hire because he's got that whole enterprise that he's running because he's got so much money, but like where he's making that money from like hiring a landlord, basically. Like the landlord is his like that's his employee, and they pull in most of the money for him while he just sleeps, basically. Like being able to diversify these investments are very important for people. A lot of people don't understand how a lot of this shit works, and I can vouch for it, not from personal experience. I'm a loser and a fuck up. I'm an alcoholic, and I don't make shit for money. I live in my grandpa's basement, but the grandpa's basement that I live in is a grandfather that's made a a giant, incredible, let's say substantial, because we got him on amount of money.
Oh,
Yeah, from
roll
investments,
credits.
doing like actually investing his money into stocks and shit like
Mm-hmm.
that, and like being able to figure that out. And
Right.
he wouldn't be able to survive on just his Social Security alone, especially not in this time right now with everything
Yeah.
going on. They cut his Social Security back a significant amount, and if he didn't have
Wow.
that investments that he had made, then he wouldn't be able to. I have other family members that are in the same position, so it's awesome that you're doing that for a lot of people that don't have that information, because I can
Yeah.
speak from people that I've seen this work successfully for a bunch of times. Like everybody that does that, they really benefit from this knowledge. Like they could
Sure.
be belly up in a time like this, and you never know when a time like this is coming. Everybody feels so safe and secure all the time because of the way that the world's been running. But I think times they are a changing. Shit's getting different right now, and people need to understand that they're gonna have a little nest egg to back it up. So it's awesome that
Yeah.
you're giving that information, spreading that word, and like helping people
Yeah.
figure this out.
Yeah, man, it's necessary, man. Like, and unfortunately, you know, we rely solely on, or most people rely, like, mostly on, you know, schools, their parents, and whoever they trust to educate them. And schools in particular aren't necessarily created to supply you with that type of information. They're not, they don't exist to create entrepreneurs, so to speak. You know what I mean? Or like professional creatives,
They
so to
want to
speak.
create worker
Like,
bees. They
they
want to
create
create
workers.
zombies.
Right.
They want to create
So-
people that are there to be the cogs. You want to be the
Right.
machine, the head of the machine that runs the shit. School isn't there to
Right.
teach you that. You're
And
there to
just-
teach people shit like that.
And if you look at a lot of the people who ended up in really, really tough situations, you know, hoping that the government gets their act together and cuts a check, you know, basically it's because of the fact that, yo, you're solely reliant on one particular company or corporation, however you want to call it, to provide you with a check consistently. But what happens when they get in trouble? What happens when the person who cuts you the check now can't afford to cut you a check? So the craziest thing is, man, I used to be behind, like when I had a full-time, when both my wife and I had full-time gigs, we were constantly struggling to pay our bills. You know what I mean? Constantly. The second we left our jobs, and you know, before we left our jobs, we were diversifying, finding different ways to make revenue. And it wasn't even you know, like we know about the property route, because that's the most common route for a lot of people to create you know, that type of wealth.
Yeah.
You know, like people talk about real estate all the time, but like creatives don't necessarily view what they create as doing the same thing. What you're doing, what you create, can potentially create jobs. You can hire someone to kind of take what you created and then license it or rent it out, so to speak, to different folks, and create other opportunities for that. You can be a company like my wife and I's company, build these strong connects and create you know, a real interest in what you do and get people drawn to you, and then tap people who aren't getting these opportunities and say, hey, this thing that they come to me to hire me for all the time, I don't have the time to do that, but I still want some of that money. And I know that you only charge this much, and I get like 10 to 15 times that to do the same thing. So now if I do a split with you, I'm gonna make sure you get 5 to 10 times what you normally get doing that, just to kind of give me a bit more space to do something else. You know what I mean? So I can help more people by simultaneously helping you. So it seems like when the conversation starts, like it's very money centered, but the reality of it is, man, you're creating opportunities for yourself to expand what you do and create a more stable lifestyle for yourself, while simultaneously building opportunities for other people that you touch and come in contact with.
It's so weird that
Your type of mindset is something that I strive for when I get to that point. To like, okay, I have money now. I need to do everything I can to make sure I always have money now. You know?
Yeah. No, man, I appreciate it, man. Thanks. Yeah, it's, you know, man, I try to. I think younger me didn't know that this day would come, right? Like I didn't see myself as an old man. So the older and I'm not technically an old man yet, but some see me that way, right? But like now that I'm here, and I understand that, you know, I got some time ahead of me, but more importantly, my children are going to go way past that, and so many different people lives I come in contact with, the information I share with them is going to live, like it's going to keep on creating more opportunities. And so I got to be smart with the different properties, the intellectual properties that I create, and maintaining ownership of these things. And then it basically, you know, even as I do business in the music industry, when I'm creating this content, yeah, I could walk into a label and take a deal, right? Or get with some indie label and do whatever. I get those type of opportunities. I've had plenty of those opportunities. But the importance of owning my own shit and understanding that all it takes is one thing, right? The one video game song that I do, if that particular song becomes the one that becomes this worldwide phenomenon and becomes huge, it can literally double or triple or even more. Like, it can turn the other things that I own,
Yeah.
it can increase the value substantially, right, in a short period of time. And I can see that much quicker if I own it. And more importantly, if something happens to me, my wife, my family don't have to hunt anybody down to make sure that they collect, because we own this stuff.
And
You
it's
actually you see that a lot more these days, especially in the music industry, of people making it a point to, like, hey, make sure you own your masters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see that now more and more than ever.
Yeah, I own 90% of 90+% of my catalog. You know what I mean? And so you know, so for every, and it's like you just never know what's gonna happen, man. Like, you know, here I am. I'm 41. I've been in the biz since I was 20. You know, and I mean, dude, this year, like, I've seen things happen in my career that haven't happened in the 20+ years of me doing it. That created bumps, and, like, you know, you're watching your numbers grow, but then certain moments happen, and then you watch those numbers jump, and sometimes they don't go back down, right?
Cool.
But being able to see it yourself and being able to have some control over making sure the money is, you know, coming home, and my wife or me not having to chase people down to make sure that we get what we're owed, so we can. I mean, man, look, Chappelle's going through it right now.
Yeah,
that's what I was trying to bring up.
Yeah,
that's what I was trying to bring up.
Logic
oh my God.
Logic's going through that same issue right now with what record deal or label was he? Def Jam. Def Jam isn't paying the artist that he had on his latest album.
Sure.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Did you guys all watch that Chappelle thing? Luke actually posted that, the thing that you were talking about, where, like, he got fucked on that Chappelle show deal, and he's talking about boycotting, like, watching it on these streaming services because he got fucked so many times. That dude is the best, like, one of the best orators ever of all. I want that dude to be the president. I don't care what his politics are. I don't care if he doesn't have any experience. When you sit down and listen to Dave Chappelle talk, I just sit back and I just wait.
He's got a serious way of words.
I get hypnotized by this man speaking because he's so intelligent. He knows, he's been through so much. He's only 47, and you could just tell this man's just been through every type of ringer imaginable, like every type of, like, wealth class imaginable, everything from the poorest of poor to the richest of rich, and, like, all this crazy shit in between. And I just, like, I hear him talking about, like, how he got completely fucked on his deal, and he signed this deal fucking 17 years ago, and now they're still holding him to that deal that he signed when he was 17 years ago. And he's just like, hey, I have the power now. Fuck that, don't watch it, don't do that. And that's where the point that you were making, own your own shit. Don't it goes back to that Run the Jewels concept. That album just came out this year's kill your fucking corporate masters. Don't have these motherfuckers there that can tell you what to do anymore. You don't need them anymore. Nobody needs these people anymore. You can own your own shit. If you have a podcast, don't take the deal. If you get popular, same with rap music, with fucking metal music, with fucking rock, whatever you do, whatever it is, like, you'll get that whenever you get big enough, you get enough numbers, they're going to send you, they'll be like, here's a bag of cash. Won't that fix a bunch of shit for you? Yeah, right now in the short term. And then what happens when I'm signed to this deal for 10 years and I got to fucking keep putting out content, selling my blood, and not getting
like a credit card
reimbursed for that? It's like, it solves some problems right now.
That's the best way I can do that.
Own your own shit. Hold on to your own shit. Keep your masters. Fucking don't fucking sign the deals. Like, I 100%.
There's so many bands I know that'll make, like, they'll make like $600 a night, and everything gets paid back, and each member is like ending up with $13.75 a person a day. You
Mhm.
know, or they make $2,000 every couple months or something, and it's just like, this is crazy. This is
Sure.
great. It's like a trap.
I
It's a
love that you're
trap.
telling that to people though, and you're not like buying into that idea, because that's so important to tell other people that are younger. They just see the pile of cash and they don't think about tomorrow the way that you were talking about how you didn't used to see tomorrow. You just see the pile of cash and you're like, I'm gonna be dead in
Yeah.
2 years. Fuck it,
What-
I'll take the pile of cash and who cares? But then you do live 10 more years and you
Yeah,
live 15
because-
more years and you're like, hold on a minute, why did I sell all this for
Consequence?
nothing? And you think about
Right.
it, you're like, I sold it for how much? Like, is that worth like all this time? It isn't. So
Well,
it's important
you
to tell
saw
people that.
You saw that happen with the start of the mumble rap era. Like
Mhm.
most of them came up through SoundCloud. That was independent stuff, you know. And they
Mhm.
obviously they're still here with the recognition, you know. Like they
Mhm.
if they didn't sign over to the big checks that were presented in front of them, they probably could have been. I mean, they're still rich as hell, but like just
Mhm.
imagine the money they would have to this day.
Yeah, but think about it like this, right? And this is the way I explain it to folks. So I'm an artist who, like when I come up in conversation, I'm not necessarily talked about with certain artists, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times the artists that people think that I should be aligned with, who may be 10 times more popular than me, right? Most of them are in label situations where the label is splitting that, like, if they got a good deal on an indie label is usually a 50-50 split, right? And I'm talking about like a big indie label. So like you'll have a 50-50 split, which sounds of course way better than what major labels give folks with points, these point systems. And then what people also don't consider that all of the money that gets invested in a project. I've done two different projects with indie labels that have spent between 20 to 40 grand on an indie album. Right now, keep in mind that even in those situations where you may not be as big as those artists who are in that situation, but like basically because I own what I put out, I don't have the labels like a middleman for the distributor, right? Like I am the label, even though we're not a label,
Yeah.
I'm operating as a label. So
Yeah.
that whole
All comes
that
to
whole
you.
right, they like it comes directly to us, right? So now I have more capital to work with. And then on top of that, because I'm not operating the way a label does, our budget is way lower. So like we
Yeah.
see a much higher return for selling less records. So an artist can be 10 times bigger than me and then basically still be making less money than I make off of what I do.
Yeah.
So people, but again, like, you're taught to play the game a certain way, and we get caught up in this numbers game, like how many followers someone has, right? How many like streams on YouTube that they have as opposed to a different platform. And so I mean, streams are great, and I do pretty good with the streams, but a platform like Bandcamp may not be as popular as Spotify per se. But I mean, man, listen, one download on Bandcamp is the equivalent of a couple of hundred streams on Spotify.
That's interesting. That blows my mind.
So
Bandcamp?
right, on Bandcamp. Bandcamp is one of the most underused tools for independent musicians there is. In terms of what you can do, and because they let people stream your music for free, right?
Yeah.
But then I can get access to all of the emails of the people who are purchasing my music. I can have direct contact with the people who interact with my music. Other platforms don't allow you to do that. So Bandcamp is just a way better system. They also operate similar to Patreon, where you can do subscriptions and all of these other things and sell your merch, and you can do so much more with Bandcamp than you can with any other platform. And and again, I'm not a dude to badmouth streaming at all, because a good portion of the money that comes through this household is from streams. But I tell people all the time, simultaneously push things like that, simply because, like, again, diversify, like being able to at the end of the year, when you finish calculating everything and look and be like, okay, man, this year I just created 23 different revenue streams, like for this particular thing I love doing, right?
Cool. Yeah.
And then being able to say, all right, going forward, which ones should I focus more on? Which ones should I lose? What new ones can I introduce? And how can I maximize or how can I better monetize what I'm doing so I don't have to waste time worrying about the whole popularity contest thing, and just make sure bills get paid and that my family have what they need, right?
Yeah.
Basically blue collar rap shit, man. Like, yeah, I mean, it's shout out to Rhyme Fest. He actually had an album called Blue Collar Rap, the guy that wrote Jesus Walks with Kanye. But that's the mindset, man. Like, less about celebrity, less about fame, and just like, man, look, I know how much needs to come through these doors every month to keep everything running in a way that everyone is happy and comfortable, and we have money to be able to do the things we'd like to do. And yeah, like, I'm just gonna focus on that shit. You know what I'm saying?
That's really
Yeah.
awesome. Super inspirational shit, man. Thanks for
Thank you,
sharing that
brother.
with our crowd. I was going to ask you about something a little bit off the tracks what we're talking about
Sure.
right now. I had just seen it on the Wikipedia page. I don't know how comfortable you are with talking about it, but
Mm-hmm.
it did say that you had gone through a struggle with cancer. Do you want to speak about that
Sure.
at all? Or
Yeah, so it wasn't full blown cancer. It was basically back in 2010 I think it was 2010, late 2010. They discovered I had a colonoscopy at a age that was younger than most people get it. Most people, they tell you to do it when you're 40. But I was in my early 30s. I had noticed some stuff, like, yeah, shit, man, like, we're all adults. Went to the bathroom and noticed some things, and I was just like, yeah, that don't look right.
I've got those issues. I've talked about it a bunch. What were you?
You
Can you
should
tell
probably go
me?
to the doctor.
Seriously, can you tell me graphic detail, because I know this is like a little.
He's concerned.
I've talked about bloody shits on here and everything, like
dude.
wiping my ass with blood. No blood in the toilet, like, but it was
Right.
stuff that concerns me. I don't go to the doctor a bunch. Like, me and
Yeah,
Pat
yeah.
were talking about it off mic. Like, we just never
Yeah.
go, like, ever for anything. But I get concerned about it. What
Yeah,
was
man,
those
so-
signs that took you to the doctor?
Basically what you just described, right? Like,
just
I went
go to the
Fuck.
doctor. Cody,
Yeah.
just go to the doctor.
I gotta go to the
We're all
hospital.
worried about you.
All right, we're
Yeah.
turning this off. I gotta go to the hospital.
Right. Yeah, but no, man, it was, so, like, some backstory. I mentioned my uncle earlier. When I was young, I stayed with my uncle out in Southern Cali for several weeks, and my uncle was just super serious about, like, our diet, to the point where he had us on such a strict diet. And keep in mind, I was like 11 years old, man. Like, he had me on such a strict diet that, like, when I came, if he was home and I went to the bathroom to take a shit, like, I couldn't flush without him coming in to examine. You know what I mean? Like, he
Do you
would
have
literally-
corn?
Whoa, really?
Is that corn?
No, he was dead serious. Like, because he basically could tell if we were following the diet that he gave us by what our stool looked like. So I'm a dude that pays attention because of that experience at such a young age. That shit stuck with no pun intended, but that shit stuck with me for the rest of my life, right? So yo, one day I'm at the job, and I go and I look, and I was just like, that doesn't look normal, right? And so I was luckily no one else had showed up to the job yet, because I had a bit of a panic attack. You know what I mean? I wouldn't call, well, not a full blown panic attack, but I was stressed. And
Was it
so,
blood?
yo,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah, it was blood. Yeah, it was blood.
like a
And so-
lot. Like I'm asking honestly, 100%
Yeah, it-
because I'm not because I'm like some weird voyeur into your life.
Nah, it's cool.
I'm
We
We
worried
want
about
you
it
to
myself.
brag,
Ser-
remember?
No, I'm seriously worried about myself.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
also substantial. We've been telling him to go to the fucking hospital for these bloody shits for years. It only
Listen.
took you to talk to him.
Well,
He's
look,
so impressionable.
like,
we
He's
need
stress.
your
scaring me
guidance.
now. I need to be
Yeah.
scared, so I go.
Yeah, so look, so absolutely everything that you described is exactly what I saw. So basically,
He's so shifty-eyed. Go to the doctor.
yo, so yeah, man, nah, absolutely. So basically, I made arrangements to go see a doctor. I described what I was experiencing. They decided to give me a colonoscopy 9 years before I was scheduled to have one. And then here's what's crazy is while going through that whole experience with the colonoscopy and then meeting with an eventual surgeon, because when they did the colonoscopy, they noticed a growth. And then they did a biopsy and it was a precancerous growth. And the doctor basically told me that, yo, if we don't do anything about this, I've seen this enough times to know that this is going to turn into cancer. So we need to go ahead and do something about this now. And he basically told me to have this procedure where they were going to remove part of my small and large intestines in hopes of removing that area where the growth was happening, which was causing the polyps and the blood that I was seeing. And so I did it. And the dude told me straight up, he was like, man, I truly believe that if you didn't do that, you know what I mean, and you didn't act sooner, that you might have had a much serious problem, a much more serious problem later. So man, and my dude, I've had at least 12 family members that have had some form of cancer. So like the likelihood that when they talk about it being when they worry about certain things being hereditary, what they're not saying is it's not necessarily hereditary, or that you're predisposed because of genes. What it is y'all are related. Y'all have similar eating habits. Some of y'all are growing up in the same house or family that eats a certain way and creates a lot of these problems. And so, it's just something that people don't really talk about. And you know how people are with food, man. Being I'm pescatarian technically, but most days how I eat is mostly plant-based, right? Like how I eat throughout the day is mostly plant-based. But I do eat fish.
What's your go-to fish?
What was it? Well, we had ahi tuna tonight, but
You
salmon.
do sesame ahi tuna, like seared and whatnot, with like a ponzu or anything?
So when I do ahi tuna, it's typically like if we're doing like a fish taco or something like that, right? But then I'll do when I do salmon or whatever, like it might be lemon pepper, it might be teriyaki style or whatever. Sometimes it's seared, sometimes it's baked or whatever.
I ask because food is my thing. Like that's what I do for a
man.
living outside of the. I mean, we don't make any money to do in the podcast, but
Yeah,
we actually just put a fish special on our menu, barramundi. If you're familiar with barramundi, it's I believe it's from India, but we do it like an Indian style. We do lentils, red lentils with in a curry with sweet potatoes, and then we do a raita sauce. Which
where are y'all located?
Cincinnati, Ohio, Dilly
shit.
Bistro. If you ever want to come out and check it out, but it's phenomenal.
I'll look y'all up when I'm out there next.
Yeah, dude. Whenever you come up, let me know. I'll if there's any way that you can get in contact with me. I mean, I'll get you. If you actually come out to Cincinnati, I'll get you some. I'll pay for your food. Come on out.
Oh man, man, listen.
You and your family, come on out.
We love to eat, so
If you're a pescatarian, we've got a bunch of we do the sesame ahi on our thing. We do fried risotto cakes with like a haricot, which is just fancy like French green beans tossed in like a wasabi vinaigrette. We do a ponzu sauce over the top of it. So I love hearing about the food that people eat. Like it's really fascinating.
Yeah, man, listen, it sounds amazing when I literally just finished dinner before I started with y'all and I'm hungry again. So like the shit sounds amazing. I might go cook something after we get look, man, that dude, like, yeah, we'd love to check it out, man. We definitely love to eat around here. But yeah, man, like that whole situation was like extremely insane and it was scary, like not just for me, but for my family as well.
For sure.
Yeah, man. Look, I think there's a part of me that once I really, probably after my first daughter was born, I think I became more and more aware and accepting of the fact that, I think I'm gonna be here for quite some time, and I need to do better to ensure that my quality of life from this point on is as dope as it can fucking possibly be.
I'm starting to get there myself.
Man, it's a struggle, man. Like, I stay busy, as you were saying, like watching the stuff I'm posting and everything. Like, dude, I stay, and the crazy thing is, I definitely do not post a lot compared to how much I'm doing. And it's partly because what I post is not even a fucking inkling of what is happening over here.
You're a busy man. You're doing a whole lot of shit.
Man, but like but it's definitely like, like since I know I got time and like, knock on wood, I'm gonna do everything I fucking can to just like, enjoy this shit as much as possible and secure as many things I can for me and mine and anybody we come in contact with. But but yeah, man, I definitely suggest, man, like, like definitely make that arrangement because they tell us to wait until we're 40. But if you're seeing that, like you're seeing that now, you should do it now.
I'm going.
And
go.
anybody any of the people that listen to your podcast, if you're black, it's important. And look, I don't really give a fuck, but I'm not trying to make it sound racial. But in this country, anytime they say that men and women of a certain age should do this at a particular age, just understand that if you're a person of color, you're the minority, which means that 9 times out of 10, when things are being said, they're oftentimes talking to white people, right? Or talking about mostly white people and what their experiences have been. So it took a white doctor to tell me that, hey, I know they say it's 40, but if you're African American, you should do this at 35. That is not public information most of the time.
Are you familiar with the comedian Patrice O'Neal? Are you familiar with him at all?
Absolutely.
Do you remember his last special, Elephant in the Room, where he was talking about? He was like,
just watched it 2 weeks ago.
Dude, I love that. It's one of the best specials of all time. But the joke in there, and it's so crazy. He was like, "I'm a 45-year-old black man with diabetes, which means I'm 147 years old." And then like he's making a joke, everybody laughs. That same year, he died of diabetes. He had a stroke. Man. He went into a coma, died. Yeah. And he's being 110% serious in the form of comedy, but it's 100% true. Like, everything that you're saying, like, people need to hear that shit. Like, because all this is based for the majority, which is white people. Like, there isn't enough, like, black voices out there saying shit like that. There needs to be more of that. There needs to be more of that type of education for the black communities. Like, I'm really happy for you that you're doing that for your community and stuff like that.
Man, thank you,
100% right.
Yeah, man, thank you. Now, it's anytime I get a hold of information and I instantly become aware of the fact that, like, not a lot of people know this shit. and I think a lot of people need to fucking know this, right? Like, dude, I'm going to use whatever I have look, after the doctor told me that, I literally went back with a camera. I asked him before I left, I was like, dude, could I come back with a camera and interview you and put it on my YouTube channel? And he was like, yeah, I guess that's fine. Just set it up. And yeah, man, I set it up with the secretary out front and then came back and interviewed him and gave everyone an update on my condition and then sat and talked with him for as long as he was available, man, just because I knew a lot of folks, especially in the community I came up with, like, there's not a lot of trust with doctors. Like, so for example, like with this whole vaccine shit, a lot of folks from my community definitely won't be lining up to just get that because of our experience with, like, historically, black people's experience in this country, like with testing and different things, from the whole Tuskegee shit and a whole lot of just fucked up history in this place, right? And so it's not even out of ignorance. It's genuine fear of what, and there's that whole Tuskegee shit is just one example. But I forget the woman's last name. I think it was Henrietta, the one where they took her, they were able to take her DNA and develop, like, they basically took it without her or her family's permission. And they were able to use it to develop so many different things that have helped so many different people. Wow. And her family got nothing. And they did this without telling them anything. So black people's distrust for medicine and hospitals, doctors, and any of this shit, you know what I'm saying? It comes from a very real place. And some people don't know exactly where it comes from. They just interacted with someone else they trust who's had a bad experience or knows the history, and it makes us distrustful. It's the same shit with police. And so, it's not something that should be just written off as just, oh, they're ignorant. Like, no, the shit is real. It's a real fear. So I just basically, if I get blessed with information, I try to give it out because I'm not going to be here forever, and I try to document it in a way where it'll hopefully outlive me, because hopefully someone gets a hold of that shit and it can help them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm curious, while we're on this topic of like all this
Sure.
social like issues and whatnot, how do you feel
Sure.
about the Black Lives Matter movement that had just happened, that just swept the entire nation? Like I feel like
Dude,
just
my heart
it's
aches
just
for
a
the Black community over this whole thing.
well,
and
sure, but
I really hope, like everything you're saying here,
Mhm.
I really hope there's some serious change, man. I really hope after everything the country just went through, especially in the past couple of weeks, that could really benefit just a whole lot of people that really need it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man. I feel you know, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm forever that. I
Yeah.
think that's forever who I'm going to be. And it's partly because back when he was first elected, I did an interview, I think in January of 2017, like right after, a couple months after the election of Trump. And basically people asked me, then like, yo, what do you think of everything? And I just told them, I was like, well, I think in terms of the music industry is concerned, I was like, I think it's going to be some really great music that's going to come out, and some amazing art
And comedy.
and comedy and everything else. And they were like, that's all you get from it. I was like, well, basically, everyone's not everyone. A lot of people are uncomfortable right now, including a lot of people who were very comfortable are now very uncomfortable and don't like the current situation. And I look at those people like, oh, well, welcome to the party.
Right.
It's like, because I mean, dude, like, I'm a 6 foot tall, 200 plus like black man in America. Like, dog, like, I was held at gunpoint by police officers from the age of 15 through like my 20s and shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you're wearing a hoodie, so according to Hillary Clinton,
I
all
mean-
of white America is scared of you.
Right. I'm a fucking super predator, apparently. Right? Like, you know what I mean? The only time people not the only time. Let me not do the swipe, like the wide, just cast this huge net. A good amount of the time that I am not with my wife and kids, right? When people interact with me, if they don't have any other, like if they don't know me, and I'm not just like with a fucking huge smile on my face and in a full suit or some shit like that, people are typically trying to avoid contact with me if they can, right? And that's not like, I don't feel like that's a gross like overstatement. That's my experience. That's what I see. You know what I mean? And I literally exist in a place where I feel like a good amount of my time at one point in my time was trying to convince people that they can be comfortable in my presence. Like, I'm not a threat to you. You know what I mean? Like,
that sucks.
Yo, like, you know what I mean?
It sucks that you have to
situations
do
where-
that. You have to spend that amount of time.
To even be put in that situation
Right.
is insane.
Yeah, and it's not, and I don't like throwing it on other people, right? Because it's just the programming of being who I am in this country, and so trying to truly be mentally free of that shit. Like most of the time, for me to be free of it, I gotta not be here. Like, like when I'm in not even every foreign country, because there's plenty of other places in the world that feel the same way about black people. But then there are other spaces where, like, I remember going to Japan, and that was like being one of the first times I felt like me being black in this space wasn't just cool because like, for example, a group of kids saw my agent at the time and asked him if we could take a picture together. The first thing I said to my agent was like, these kids are a bit young to know who I am. I'm like, you sure they want to take a picture with me? And then I was like, yo, they've heard my music. I feel like they shouldn't be listening to my music, right?
Responsible father shit. When you become a dad,
right.
you start thinking about shit like that.
And then he laughed, and he was just like, nah, they just think you look cool. And dude, that shit felt amazing. Like,
That's cool.
Like you know what I
have
mean?
people want to come see you, stand next to you, get a picture with you.
Just because you look different and they think
Yeah.
your difference is cool. You
And
know
they
what I
don't
mean?
think that it's
Yeah.
intimidating.
Instead of
They don't think that
something
it's
to be
like,
fear of.
yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's not the case all across Japan, right?
Right.
Like, but in that particular moment, like, I had never experienced anything like that. And
How
so
surreal.
yeah, so So I mean, as far as all of the shit in the country is concerned, and the movement, I think, you know, I think like this shit is it's never ending, right? Like it's work that's gonna forever have to be done because ultimately this country would like this country continues to profit off the backs of poor people. You know what I mean? And largely people of color, but not just poor like people of color, poor white people as well. And part of how you know, and part of how what's it called? Oh my God, know the word. I'm 41. Anyway, part of how this country was built, right? You know, the whole creation of whiteness, right? And I need people like who've never heard that phrase to look it up, right? Like the whole idea of whiteness and when it was created and why it was created, and to understand that basically poor people, poor like or poor landowners, be it white, black. This is before slavery became the slavery that we knew it to be, right? Basically when they saw all of these different groups who the only thing they had in common is that they were beneath the status quo, right? When all of those people started coming together and trying to work in a way to kind of level the playing field, so to speak, like they put this whole concept of whiteness in place to be like, nah, you shouldn't be siding with them, right? You look like me. So because you look like me, you should be working with me. Come work for me. I'll let you work my land. I'll let you to continue to be able to just scrape on by, barely scrape on by, and then we're gonna make them slaves. We're gonna take their power away, and we're gonna give you this false sense of power. So that way you feel, as long as you have the feeling that I am better than them, whether you ever become financially stable enough to take care of yourself doesn't really matter. As long as you are doing better than them, you're okay. Right? And so that is a real thing. That was something that was actually created and implemented in our country. That's something that is not taught in school, but there are plenty of documentations. If you need to go on the Smithsonian site so you feel like it's a bit more legitimate, whatever makes you feel comfortable. But that
makes sense.
But that is real. That is real information. And so, you know, so this system was created to be a certain way so certain people could stay in power, and not just white people in general. Of course, this system supports white supremacy and different things like that. But the fact of the matter is, I think that the change that we'll always see here is always going to be moving at a tortoise pace forever, because the power system that's in place, it can't thrive if it strips down all of these things that they put in place that unfortunately keep people in the positions they are. And so they're never going to tear it all down at once. They're never going to tear a large portion of it down. It's always going to be chipped away. And so, you know, so yeah, man. So when I hear people talk about leaving, and you know, my family and I, we have a lot of conversations about taking what we do and being able to kind of still support our communities from afar. And build other communities elsewhere where people can thrive and not have to worry about their safety and just fucking live. Like just, yeah, and that's, boy, the last thing I'll say, because I can go on this shit, we'll be here till fucking 1 a.m.
You need to start a podcast.
Yeah,
I love
This
this.
is incredibly,
This is great.
like,
Do a podcast.
My wife and I have a podcast called Artistry, but we don't. It's we touch on these things in some of the conversation, but the podcast is we talk to other creatives, all full-time creatives, and we basically we talk to them about their journey, so people can kind of get more insight and see what the path is like, and understand that the path is not the same for everyone, and to kind of pay attention to the signs and opportunities that come. But to get back to that point, basically, you know, what I think it's important that people need to understand what you know, people of color and oppressed groups in this country are really looking for, right? Like we're, you know, it's when someone says they just want equality, and for people to kind of buck back at that and be like, oh, what do you mean? You get the same. I'm like, no, if I'm saying to you that shit isn't the same for me, right? And then your response is you trying to convince a person who you've never lived with that, because the thing is,
They so quickly to invalidate your feelings.
Yeah. So like, I mean, listen, I can, I told some, like, I had to, I miss barbershops because great conversations happen in barbershops. And one of the conversations we had, like, I can understand perfectly why people buck back at these particular things and don't want these things to change, right? And that's ultimately that privilege that we talk about, that white privilege and the different things that we discuss around it. It's, even if you don't see it, right? There is something that is real to you, and that's ultimately why you don't want things to change, because you understand that you are benefiting from it. And if it changes and it starts to create more opportunities for me, which ultimately are the same amount of opportunities for you, then I might take some of what you are getting. And that is a threat to you, because I've spent my whole life having to work like 10 times fucking harder to get the same thing as you. So if things get level and I'm accustomed to working a certain way my whole life, right? Working 10 times harder in certain situations to get to the same goal, what's going to happen? And that's a scary fucking thought for a lot of people. And now that's not vocalized a lot, but that is a scary thought. And there's a video you can watch where the guy basically has a bunch of kids or teenagers do a race. And he says, take this many steps back if you don't have two parents in your household. Take this many steps back.
I've seen that video.
Right.
So have I.
And then
It's a powerful video.
It is.
Man, and what he says is like, yo, now check this out. Now look at how far back, like, and it's mostly black men. That's all the way at the back of that line. And he was like, understand that even with this head start that you have in life, some of these guys are going to catch up to you. Some of these guys are still going to pass you, even with this head start. Right? Yeah. And so, yo, again, that is a scary fucking thought to people who have been, if you have any common sense and you've been paying attention and seeing, I mean, yo, look at the life that Snoop has built for himself and his family, and understand what the fuck his background is and what he comes from. And then understand that, like, not every black man that comes from where he comes from gets to do that just because they can rap. There are plenty of fucking broke ass rappers out here, you know what I mean? I assure you, right? But yo, for him to do what he did with as little as he had is nothing short of a fucking miracle, bro. Yeah, like that's not common. No matter how many black people you see up there as rappers, that's not even 1% of our fucking population here.
One of the greatest, like, rappers of all time to me, one of the greatest producers of all time, to have one of the most prolific careers of all time, to like doing a cooking show with fucking
Martha Stewart.
Martha fucking Stewart, you know, and then changing the whole game up to do a Snoop Lion reggae album.
Stays relevant.
One of the original fucking Bob Marley band members. Like his career is insane.
He's so smart, especially like I've noticed in the hip hop and rap community. It's really easy to fall off. Like if you're not the new hot shit, like you're quick to, you might still be there producing music, but nobody gives a fuck. You already made your mark, and nobody cares about the rest of the Snoop's the exception. That dude's like actually like continuing to stay relevant in people's minds. Also, I wanted to add on to something that you had said about, I completely agree with everything that you were saying, 100%. Like, change is hard for people, and that's why you get that pushback, especially against like people, like white people specifically, that like benefit from that system being that way, and they don't want it to change because they don't want things to be different. They want to be on top. Well, not even scared. People want to be on top. Like, that's the nature of humanity. And like to say equality is to say like, oh fuck, we all have to be the same then, and that's crazy to some people. But like the only caveat that I would add to this is we need a new system. We don't need like, and I know that you weren't saying this at all, but like there's a lot of people that talk about the same things that you say, and then they say like a word like communism or socialism. I'm like, shut right the fuck up, because Joseph Stalin was on that shit. I'm like, hey, you guys have just y'all have just flipped this whole thing around. Like, let's talk about something new. Let's figure out a new system that works with these ideals. I hate it when people start talking about like the ideas that you're talking about. I love those ideas and like changing all this shit so that equality actually exists. And then they talk about a system like communism. I only address this because I've heard people like say those same thing, not to say at all that you were, but I've heard
Mm-hmm.
other people say that and be like, communism, like that's the answer. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
do you understand that that's like saying that like Nazism is the solution? Like it's just as bad.
Right.
It creates
So-
just as much disparity, just in a different direction. There's always going to be that vacuum that gets filled by the people at the top that act like we're all a part of this like system. But I love this idea. I just think that there needs to be a new system, and people don't figure out
Sure.
these new ways of thinking. I think that you're like on the track to doing that, though. You actually do have like the basis of like a new like idea system for the way that people can govern
Yeah.
themselves.
I mean, listen, I think there's a certain rigidness to looking at a particular system and then saying, "Oh, I'm that." Right? Because the fact of the matter is, like, our system is that, and that was the word I was looking for earlier, like capitalism. Our system is a capitalist system, right? But the reality of it is there are certain things that we utilize in our system that is socialism, right? Or communism.
Definitely.
And then even if it isn't, like, even if people don't like to say that, I'm like, okay, let's pretend like we don't use those things for a second. You still do business with communist countries
Right.
on a regular basis.
Yeah.
In fact, we're in debt to a communist country.
Sure.
And we spend plenty of time visiting there, investing in there. Our president has invested money there. You know what I mean? So, you know, we can keep playing the whole game of when we say, oh, that's a dirty word, but it's not dirty enough that that our capitalist society completely cuts off these parts of the world.
I think
unless
they're
you're
all
Cuban.
dirty words. I think
Unless you're
capitalist is the dirty word. No, I
Right.
honestly 100% feel like I don't trust any government. I don't trust the
Yeah.
capitalist government. I don't trust the communist, socialist, the fucking you give it to me. I'm not going to buy it because I feel like that they all like look out for numero uno, which is them. Like, yeah,
Right.
sure, if it keeps an uprising from happening, sure, they'll fucking do that to keep an uprising from happening, but I don't trust
Sure.
any of the systems that say that they're these old school things that have been developed 200, 300 400 years ago. Like, I just feel like that they're all looking out for the people that are running that shit behind the fucking curtain. I don't trust that. I want some new shit. I want some 2020 shit. I want some 2021 shit. I want some 2030 shit. I want some new shit. I want fucking, like, the youth to decide this shit. I want people to figure out a system that works
we
for
need
them
younger people
now.
in politics,
People
man.
keep going back to these systems that don't work, that keep getting broken, that keep falling apart, that keep oppressing certain groups of people. Like, one group rises up, another group gets oppressed. Like, fuck all that shit. Let's find some shit out that works now, that we can figure out a trade system that works now. Like, fuck all this old shit. This old shit doesn't work. It doesn't work.
What if it
We gotta get rid of
requires
it.
you to vote?
Well, I'm all for voting. I don't vote because I don't fucking trust the system. I don't trust.
Burn.
I don't trust anybody that's saying that I'm gonna run the shit. It's
So-
just me. I'm gonna run the shit. I'm the best. I can control 330 million people. I don't trust you. I don't trust you at all.
Right. And so, I mean, listen, like, you know, just going back to the vote thing, you know, I think it's like this, you know, there are definitely a good amount of people I've talked to over the years who, you know, who don't necessarily trust anything about the system and think that like voting is pointless and this, that, and the third. And while I agree that there are certain parts of it where that makes complete sense, and there are certain things we've seen that totally make sense based on that notion. However, you know, I always bring it back to the fact that like if it made absolutely no difference, gerrymandering would not be a thing. People literally wouldn't be
I agree
showing
with
up in
you.
droves to fucking kill or beat people to death. This keep them from voting. Motherfuckers wouldn't be creating testing.
Voter
like,
suppression in general.
it's real. And so this is what I do, right? Because like even though I've voted Democrat like maybe like 2 or 3 times and shit, you know, in terms of presidential elections, you know, I'm really an independent more than anything, because when I look at the whole system, this shit is Crips and Bloods to me. It's all gang shit, right? Like,
is.
I
Hey,
mean,
that's a fact. Yeah.
dude,
You're
it's
laughing,
all-
but he's being 100% serious.
I'm dead ass serious. It's all trust. I've spent enough time around gang culture to know the shit when I see it. Like it's literally gang culture, right? Like, you know, when I hear people, when I see women on The View who've literally said things like, you know, like said shit to Bernie Sanders, like how you know, why should we get behind him when he's being a Democrat now, but he's been independent his whole fucking career? I'm like, what the fuck difference does that make? Like, he picked up your flag and he running with it. You should be. I'm like, this gang shit, right? He got your flag now. Run with your gang, right? but they. Like they kind of this whole two-party system shit is
It doesn't work. It doesn't make any
awful.
fucking
It's greatly
sense.
flawed. It's greatly flawed, and we are one of the few like nations that have the amount of power that we have, like, you know, that still kind of like are caught up in a two-party system.
There's a third of a billion people here, and everybody's
Right.
relying on two systems. Get the fuck out of here. That doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it's ridiculous.
One
Yeah.
president, there's one president, and oh, wait, we got a vice president. That shit doesn't work. We
Yeah,
need a
it's-
committee
it's-
of people.
it's-
Like, oh, yeah, we do have a committee of people. It's the Senate and the Congress. Like, that shit
Right.
does not work. These
if
people
you
are
get the
there protecting
wrong-
the corporate interests that pay for their fucking campaign ads. The people
Right.
that spend the money on their campaign ads are the people that they're lobbying for their fucking laws to go into motion, even if it's not
Right.
on the books. I don't trust any of those motherfuckers. I think that
Yeah.
they're all like on some bullshit constantly. That's why I'm like, get rid of this whole shit. Come up with a new system. Hold on, my girl's coming at me. Keep going. Sorry.
Cool. So what I suggest to a lot of folks, right, is check out there's a great site called isidewith.org, right? And the reason why I tell people to use that site is because basically if you're about to vote in a particular election, be it local, you definitely, you know, for people who, you know, who look at what's going on and have an issue with it, I always recommend, I'm like, man, vote locally as much as you can.
Yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean?
where it matters.
Yeah, it's where it matters most, man. Absolutely. And so, but a lot of times people don't, because the shit isn't as publicized and they don't know anything about the local candidates. So what I suggest checking out a site like that, because what the site basically has you do is you vote on issues. You don't vote on people, right? Because we don't know any of these people other than what is shown to us in the media. So what they do is they keep track of their voting records and various sources that have provided information in terms of what they've said, aligned with how they voted, right? And basically try to come up, they give you candidates after you vote on the different issues, and they show you what percentage of the time that your vote aligns with theirs, right? Because at the end of the day, like, yo, we can think everyone's crooked and we can not trust any of these motherfuckers, but the fact of the matter is, like, yo, like the work is going to get done one way or the other, right? With your input or without it.
Yeah,
And so
moves.
unless you yourself are going to join the process or try to build some type of infrastructure in your community by partnering with local organizations and doing the work, like if you're not going to do the work, if all we're going to do is talk, like, yo, then you basically bare minimum, you need to be doing enough research to support the people locally who are doing the fucking work. And
That's-
so if you're not going to vote, that's cool. But like, go find an organization that's doing the type of work that you feel like is the type of shit that needs to get done, and
Did you hear
bare
that?
minimum at least try to fund it, right? Or like support with whatever skill set that you can contribute. You know what I mean? Partner with them some type of way. But I think that's those grassroots movements and shit like is really it's things that have helped change the structure of different things on a local level and sometimes globally over the years. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's the reason why like people like Fred Hampton was viewed as such a fucking threat, because of how he was empowering people locally, that they literally shot him to death in his home. They were so scared of this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Because again, he wasn't just bringing black people together. He was bringing all types of working class people together to create real fucking change. And they are scared to death of that. You know what I mean? So you got to look in yourself to figure out what it is you're capable of and what type of time you're willing to put in. And I say bare minimum, if you're a person that is still trying to kind of navigate this voting shit, and I get it. Trust me, I get it. Because I've been there. But what I've done over the years, man, I use that site all the time, because what it does, it shows me all of the different candidates. It shows me Green Party candidates, shows me Libertarian candidates, it shows me independents, it shows me every fucking body.
And what's
it
the
even-
name of this
and it-
website for
it's
Cody
called-
here?
It's called isidewith.org or .com. isidewith, right? And so you could just Google that. And basically what it'll do is you vote on the issues, all of the issues that are on the ballot for the most part. You vote on all of that, and they show you who your vote with aligns with, what candidates you align with, whether you like them or not. Because basically I learned that shit, as much as I might not like Trump, right? I still agree with this motherfucker 20% of the time. And I bet you a good amount of people out here have no fucking idea how much they agree with people they hate.
Right.
You know what I
makes
mean?
sense.
And
What I
Also,
was-
I will say, ever since this guy got in the office, I started really paying attention to politics because I really
Yeah,
never
for
gave a
sure.
fuck either. I was like, I don't give a shit, whatever. But
Yeah.
that maybe that's just some weird thing that I grew up with. I don't know.
Yeah.
But after this guy came in, now I know what a GSA is. I know when
Mhm.
elections get certified. I know what happens when you vote locally. I know how these people get over to the ones that you're about to vote for. All this other shit. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm not going to miss any of this shit at all, period,
Right.
anymore. Like, I feel like I'm almost borderline obsessed with trying to make sure I'm on top of it.
Sure.
So I know what
Well,
I'm
I
talking
think-
about.
I think you kind of went through the same realization that I did, Patrick, where like
Mm-hmm.
you got to a point of age and voting where you like, oh, no, it'll be fine. Like vote locally. Like there's no way Trump's gonna win against Hillary. Like there's just no fuck. And then they do, and then you realize that the world is just run by a bunch of dummies, a bunch of
Yeah,
simpletons.
fuck.
Like your parents who like someone else will take care of it. There's no way he's gonna win. People will vote. The
Mhm.
good person will win, and then they don't, and you're like, oh, okay, so I have to be more
I should have done
proactive.
something.
for,
Should've
for
done
me
something.
There
though.
aren't people out there that are just gonna make things right. Okay.
Yeah, but I think that the two-party system is bullshit. But I definitely think on certain elections, like specifically this one, you're kind of like stuck in a rock and a hard place
Mhm.
almost. And it just was like, to me, it was like a fight for democracy. There was so much misinformation,
Mhm.
so little trust in science when we need it most right now.
Mhm.
And it's just something I felt like where we're like a moment you're going to have later down in life where we could have had two different very futures here. You know what I mean? But later down in life, I want to know where I was when this moment in our time happened. And I want to make sure I was on the right side of history.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
For me, I
Yeah,
felt
nah.
disenfranchised by both sides of it, like all
I can
all
see
the
it.
way. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Kamala Harris supported the prison state, which I'm completely against. Like, that bitch locked up so many fucking people. Like, my
That's
uncle,
real.
heroin addict, like went to jail, got his first felony, lost his job, lost his house, fucking
Mhm.
ended up overdosing on heroin with fentanyl in it, which is his own fault because he's a dope fiend. But like,
Mhm.
you didn't need to put the big F on him. Like, his life was he's already a heroin addict. You don't need to
Yeah.
like hit him with that F. You don't
Oh,
need
yeah.
to send him to jail for his fucking struggles. Like, my dad fucking ends up killing himself because he's got these drug problems and like shit like that, and like dead. And it's like, I think that a part of the reason that he killed himself was he was about to go to jail for something. We got into some DUI situation when I was in the car, and I think that a big reason of him like ended up like ending his life was like he was about to go to jail for some fucking substance abuse problems, and that's what Kamala Harris, for everything that like Joe Biden represents, that is like fuck Trump, and I'm all for fuck Trump because fuck that dude. He's done nothing but like divide the country. He's done nothing but create civil unrest and like make people feel like they're more divided than they've ever been in their entire life. But at the same time, through my own personal experience, I'm just like, this bitch is running a prison state, which I'm so against. Like, I'm so against this fucking like, I just feel disenfranchised. When I brought this up at work though, somebody said like, why don't you get involved earlier with your shit? And I'm like, no, I don't vote because like I don't trust either of them. But they were like, why don't you get involved earlier into the game and figure out like who the people are in the primaries, like start like supporting them, do that. And I was like, I never even thought about that. And they
And
were
he was
like,
like,
yeah,
"That requires
people like
voting."
you are how people like you with
It
big
requires a
voices.
civic duty.
Yeah, but well, I thought of the civic duty as just like the voting for the person that everybody chose at the end, because you don't hear all this ruckus about like the candidates coming up. You just hear about the ones that won
work,
it.
bro.
But there's 4 years
you
in
gotta look
between,
it up.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
so this year actually, for as much as Luke and Pat are breaking my balls about it, and you, Substantial, are actually giving positive information that could actually help me like change this shitty idea that I have inside of my head. I already had this conversation with my coworkers, and they were all like, fucking just go vote for Biden because that's what you want. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't like this part of it. And they were like, fuck that part of it, just vote for him anyways. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna fucking vote for something that I don't like at all. They were like, did you ever like somebody? I was like, Bernie Sanders. And they're like, why didn't you fucking vote for him during the primaries? And I was like,
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it's
where
like
everybody
that's where you
fucked up.
gotta.
They didn't think
So
this-
voting
so
mattered
seriously.
that much right then because they're
No,
like,
no,
oh, Bernie will
that's right.
totally
Sure.
defeat him.
And you
He will
guys can
totally
laugh at me
defeat
and
him.
shit talk me, or you can educate somebody, be like me, and be like the people at my work did. They're like, go out next year
Hey,
and
we
do it.
tried.
And I am gonna do
Right.
that. I swear to God, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fucking do that. I'm gonna be involved
I mean,
in my
listen.
local politics and like figure that out. And there's a lot of people that feel like me that feel disenfranchised because they don't
for
understand how
sure.
the system works. I don't get how this shit works. Like I'm a fucking idiot. Nobody explains this
I
shit
mean,
to you
listen,
in school.
man.
You talked about this earlier. School's not set up to teach you how politics work and how to balance your checkbook and how to fucking buy groceries and get the best deals. School's set up to make you a worker bee. All right?
Right.
So like you need other people to kind of like guide you along the way. And I'm telling all the other people right now that are listening, I'm in the same boat as you. I don't get it either, but like start learning now. Don't fucking
Yeah.
just accept like, I just don't understand how it works. Fuck that. Learn how it works. Become
Yeah, and
involved.
understand that some of these people that are in the running very early on, like when they don't get the quote unquote job, they end up in other places and end up being like extremely influential in other ways. And a lot of times some of these candidates circle back and potentially become a presidential candidate further down the road. And sometimes not as far down the road as you think. Like the likelihood that Biden is going to be a 2-candidate president, I don't think is very high.
He's like
Mostly
78 years old.
exactly. So
Might not even last the first term.
I mean, it's a very real thing. So we got to understand the importance of the different people, like watch the people that he's putting in his cabinet, all of the different people that he's hiring in different roles. Like, because of the fact that I knew so much about the various candidates from Pete Buttigieg to Andrew Yang, and a long list of the like over 20 Democratic candidates, like I understand that the likelihood that these some of these people are going to pop up, and then also watching who he selects for different jobs, because some of these candidates had great fucking ideas. Great, like Andrew Yang
Andrew Yang was
great
phenomenal.
fucking ideas.
Yeah.
And then for instance, somebody like Pete Buttigieg, which I didn't necessarily agree with.
He's a
everything.
savage.
Yo,
He's
what,
a savage.
dude?
That's a fact.
Dude, he's dope for so many reasons. Even though I didn't necessarily agree with everything with him, the one thing I think he'd be extremely useful with, my wife and I talked about this, is like just foreign policy and being able to, in terms of like mending our
Talking to
relationships abroad because of his experience. Him like being able to speak multiple languages, serving overseas, and having those interactions and being able to step in and work with people from different parts of the world. So paying attention to these things, it just makes you more aware of what's going on. So when these people pop up later in different roles, it makes more sense
You
to
remember
you.
him.
And you understand that like, maybe they're better suited for this particular role and create more change in that particular lane than as a president. You know what I mean? And so yeah, man, it's tough, dude. But like the biggest thing, one of my favorite lines, shout out to Odyssey, favorite lines from Odyssey that he had right after Trump got elected was in a song. He was like, I mean, what is there to fear? I'm from Black America. It's just another year. You know what I mean? And so when the shit happened and it hit the fan, right? Ultimately, when I saw so many people, like, I saw the discomfort in so many different people, right? Saw how uncomfortable they were with the situation then to now. And yo, unfortunately, this is gonna sound fucked up, but there was a bit of joy that I felt. And the reason why I felt that joy is because I knew that, with discomfort comes growth. That's like, like with growth comes discomfort. Ultimately, the only way shit is truly going to progress and get better is if enough people are uncomfortable. Because if we're all good, like, dude, when I saw everyone celebrating when they announced that Biden was officially the president-elect, dude, I instantly got worried. And it wasn't because I don't like him or don't like Harris. It was because of the fact that I'm like, we're celebrating. You're celebrating. This ain't celebration time. It's work time. Yeah. It's work time. Like, we got great momentum because of all the bad shit that's been happening, because this dude has been fucking just crazy disrespectful and just, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with him, but he is who he is. And like, ultimately, it has forced a lot of people to be active in ways they never thought they would be. And that is some good that has come out of this horrible
Yeah.
situation.
It really showed the cracks in
Yeah.
like how society in America is built.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
So
we
I feel
need-
like it definitely, even though I don't think Biden's the greatest guy ever, but I definitely think, you know, the nightmare that was Trump is on its way out.
Sure.
Because no one, who the fuck wanted to do that? But now we can move with progress, and progress is slow, but
Mhm.
at least we're moving somewhat forward, which is better than we were.
Yeah.
And that
Tag-
I celebrated that weekend because
I'm-
I was like, we have a light at the end of the tunnel now.
Tagging
I'm
on
kind
to
of
what Substantial said without like talking about the election or Biden specifically, but it goes back to that famous quote that hard times create hard men create easy times create soft men, soft men
Yeah.
create hard times, and it's just that cycle that keeps going back around. And I
Sure.
feel like this is one of those periods where like there's a bunch of like hard times going on, and it's gonna I mean, people are gonna make it or break it right now in ways that it's not happened in probably 100 years for
I'm,
a lot of
I'm-
people, for the majority of people. And I mean, I know it's different community to community, and I'm sure that's different culturally depending on like what like culture you come from, but for the majority of Americans, I feel like it's been pretty easy living for a long time, and now we're coming up on hard times, and I feel like this is going to be the make it or break it moment for a lot of people, and I feel like this is the time when the strong are going to rise up, and we're going to create, hopefully, a better place. And hopefully the strong that rise up aren't like evil people. They aren't people that have like malicious intent. Hopefully the strong that rise up are looking to better in their community. And I think of just, I don't know Substantial at all. Never met him outside of this conversation. I've never talked to him. I have no reason to say this. He hasn't paid me no money to say this, but I feel like Substantial, just from what he said on this interview, just like talking with him, we never get political in the Bastard Sermon ever, and we can't get off this because
his
he
brain.
speaks so emphatically. Like, he knows what he's talking about. Like, I feel like you're one of the strong men that are gonna rise up out of this hard time. They're gonna,
Appreciate it,
and you're already
Thank
doing it. You're bringing people out of this already, and it's just now happening. We need more people like you. Like, that's.
Are we gonna see Substantial in the running for 2024? Be honest.
Hell no. But I
don't blame you at all.
appreciate your vote of confidence. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think I learned at a young age that there are a lot of other ways to create real change without necessarily being. You don't necessarily have to be a politician to be involved in politics and also create real change in your community. So, you know, I am extremely loyal to the arts community, and basically, you know, I'm about weaponizing, like, you know, amazing artists to use what they have to create real change, man, like, and create opportunities for themselves and lift their people up with what they're doing. So, you know, to me, it's no coincidence that, like, you know, I feel like art is associated with privilege as well. I'll never forget, you know, I was living in a community where the schools in that community were horrible, right? And I had some real trepidation about, like, you know, whether or not I wanted my oldest daughter, who was my only daughter at the time, going to the school that was in our neighborhood. Because at the time I worked in what do they call alternative school, so working with the kids who got put out of school. So I had multiple kids from the school that was directly behind my house at the alternative program, so I knew what my kid was going to be dealing with when she got there. So we looked at a private school, which I never thought in my life I'd be doing, but I had to really consider it. And when we went there, we went into their art classes. They were third graders learning about Cubism.
What the fuck?
And keep in mind, I didn't learn about Cubism until I was in 10th grade. And this was at a school that was a performing arts school that I had to audition to even get into. So, like, you know, understanding that how privileged, like, that information is, as somebody who has attended like grants meetings and stuff, you know, over the years with different organizations I've worked with, or with my wife, who's a former grants manager, you know, and then looking at the room, and unless I was in DC, you know, going to a lot of places, in the majority of the room, there are like little to no people of color in the room. And so certain opportunities, certain information or whatever was kind of restricted, not in writing per se, but like certain people had access to that information and weren't making a conscious effort to make sure that everyone had access to that information. So I knew early on in my life that, yo, I feel like artists are a real threat to the way things are, because
Yes.
we pass
In a
information.
good way.
Yeah, exactly. In the best way, which is a horrible way for the people in power. So like, but you know, when you think of like the Nazi movement, right? And basically how one of the things that the Nazis did was they took over museums and took art and took all of these different things and stored some of this stuff, kept other things, replaced some things. And when you look at just how they presented themselves,
Well, they
like
destroyed
they're
art is what they did.
right.
They destroyed any
They
art
did
that
that.
wasn't like
That
from
didn't
that.
align with what they were pushing. But they also understood the power of art. When I was
Yeah.
in
That's why they
um,
destroyed it.
right, but not just
Yeah.
why they destroyed it, why they also created it. So where I was going with this is there is, I can't remember the book, but in, I think shit, was it not about to say 10th, my sophomore year of college, I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. And while I was there, my teacher brought in a book that was about propaganda from the Nazi movement. And he was showing us the art director, the woman who basically was responsible for a lot of this stuff.
Joseph
And
Goebbels. He was the one
man,
that did all that shit.
man, and so dude, like they're showing us this shit, and like there's several kids in my class who are Jewish, so like they just really, like I completely understood why they just checked out. They were like, yeah, I can't do this, bro. And but like man, I was in awe of the shit I saw
Yeah.
in this book. And I said out loud to the teacher, I was like, yo, this feels fucked up to say, but this shit is really good. Like just based on
Wow.
aesthetics and what I know about art and design,
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, this shit is put together. And he was like, and he's Jewish himself, and he was like, oh, I know, I fucking know, they were great
Yeah.
at selling their brand, right? And so, and what his point, because it's a graphic design class, he was like, my point is, I need you to understand the type of power you're wielding.
It's the
Right?
same
Like,
thing that happened with the genocide that happened in Rwanda. The guy
Mhm.
that started all that was on a radio program that basically
right,
made
the
the
media.
yeah. If you watch like the most wanted people in the world, it's like a documentary on Netflix. They do a whole thing on the guy that started the genocide, and it was all based on like just radio, just being able to talk about it. He didn't
Yeah.
even have the art. Like there wasn't an infrastructure to communicate art, but he made like groups of people like the Tutsis feel like that they were like inferior, and the Hutus were the ones that were gonna like enact the genocide that was gonna cleanse everything. The same thing that the
Sure.
Nazis did, the same thing that every genocide does, and it all happens from this like from one of these like propaganda leaders. You're talking about
Mhm.
Joseph Goebbels from the Nazi movement, and then you have that guy that ran the radio movement, and it all comes from that. And then like you listen to how they speak, and you're like, wow, they're really well spoken. They have great art. They have all this good shit, and it's like, yeah, of course they
Yeah.
do. That's how they fucking hide all this like evil, dark, insane
From
shit.
the suits, from how they dress, to like how certain shit is pristine, or how, dude, there's so many different ways to sell the message. I literally I just had a training with after this I actually got to run, but
Cool.
yo, I had this training because I'm doing something with this program called Next Level in the U.S. State Department, where I'm kind of like an ambassador of hip hop, and they're sending me to Haiti to teach emceeing or whatever, and
Whoa.
and
That's
do
super
like
cool.
conflict transformation in Haiti. Thank you. And so we did this training, and I was building with this one sister who does a lot of work down south, and they were trying to get the flag in her state removed because it still had part of the Confederate flag in it. And we were just talking about branding, and we were talking about all of this stuff, and I asked her a question that I'm just listening to her talk, and I just kept coming back to one question. Like when she talked about the people who wanted to keep the flag, they kept calling those people Confederate sympathizers, right? And it's crazy. And again, I had that moment that I had in my graphic design class where I was like, damn, that's pretty good. Like that's a pretty I
Great
was like,
branding.
that's great branding,
Yeah.
right? Like that's so, concise and just works so well. I understand exactly what that means. And so, yo, when she finished talking, I was like, can I ask you a question? It's like, what do they call the people who are protesting the flag? And yo, she struggled, right? And this wasn't a slight. This is a extremely intelligent woman, but she was just talking about like the different people who were doing what, and like one group, she like when she gave them how they identify, it was very long. I can't remember it to this day, and I just told her, I was like, yo, y'all need to find your own flag to fly under, and it needs to be just as concise. I need to hear it once and know what it is and never forget it. Like, that's extremely important. And until like the quote unquote folks who were doing the good work understand the importance of that shit, like, yo, you're fighting a losing fight. Yeah. Because as long as the evildoers of the world know how to market their shit better, bruh, it's gonna be some dark fucking times. Because like, man, knowing how to sell your message, knowing how to present your message, you know, man, it is, dude, it's important in ways that the average person has no idea, man, like no idea. And it's really dangerous. And so yeah, man, we're trying to empower as many, you know, my wife and I and our business, you know, just circling back, dude, we try to empower as many folks as we can, especially these good folks that we work with, who are, you know, doing some really good things for the community, and just really trying to help them understand their power and how to better present and leverage their power in a way where they can simultaneously make a living while doing some good work, because both are needed. Like, you know, it's great that you're doing something to give back, but yo, you got to make sure you got something for yourself too. You know what I mean?
Substantial.
Dude,
this
so
has been one of
inspiring.
the most like serious episodes that we've ever recorded, but also the most thought-provoking and one of the most interesting. And I feel like the people listening, we've done serious episodes in the past where people are like, come on, these people are just like talking out of their ass. But I feel like the people listening to this one, like normally they're listening to like a comedy show. I feel like they would actually be willing to listen to this all the way to the end to hear you speak about this, because you talk about it so intellectually, and you speak about it with such passion that it's really made us all like
I've
feel
learned
inspired. I really feel like I've
Thank
learned
you,
a lot
guys.
too. Thank you so much for coming on.
I've learned a lot about myself.
Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for getting Cody to finally vote. I'm sure next time he has an opportunity, he'll finally exercise that important right.
I haven't made a dick joke in over an hour, Substantial. You're the first one in like years. I haven't talked about how little my dick is in hours now. This is incredible. Holy shit.
Wait, Substantial,
All right,
real
Substantial,
quick
do you have
before you
anything?
go, real quick before you go, Luke's
What happened?
in the background. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
I hear
go.
you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me what you think about Luke's closet real quick? Like, what's your quick personal opinion about that?
It's not my stuff, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Like, what do you think?
sure
What's your
it's his
first
shit.
thought when you
Yo.
saw that? I know you eyed it.
Oh man, damn, guilty. As charged. Every time he came on the screen, I kept watching how he was holding the mic. You know, that's the rapper in me. And then like I'd go from the mic to like the closet trying to figure out what's happening back there. I mean, I see a white plastic bag that might be old clothes.
It
right?
is.
Okay, shit. I know. Look, we stay donating old clothes all the fucking time, so I've had that situation. And then probably storage for some other things that maybe you don't need right now, but you're going to need at some point, so you keep it close by.
Right. It's not my stuff again. It's my family's, but you're totally correct.
Liar.
Look, man, you know.
Liar. It's all your stuff.
There's judgment-free zone, man. Listen, like I said.
No,
if
I'm
I turn
judging you
this
so
camera
hard.
around-
Don't listen to him. I'm judging so hard on that closet, Luke.
Put a towel over it.
Cover that shit up.
Substantial, truly, you have been one of my favorite guests, and
man,
I've got so many like more questions to ask you. I can only hope that we could have you on again sometime in the future.
Yeah, man.
Please.
Be my pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Plug whatever you got to plug, man. Go ahead. Tell everybody about all your shit.
Sure, man. So Winter Breaks 2, the first single drops this Monday, and then we're doing an early release for Bandcamp Friday. That's going to be on December 4th. So November 30th, you can get the sneak peek of the first single, and then December 4th, the full project drops on Bandcamp. Winter Breaks 2 by Bob Alloy. That's Substantial and Marcus D.
We'll put links in the description.
Yes, please. Thank you. And then also on December 26th, which is the first day of Kwanzaa, Umoja, we're having it's a Kwanzaa celebration brought to you by Creative Suitland and Substantial Art and Music, which is my company. Shout out to my amazing wife. So yeah, man, those are the main things we pushing right now. Other stuff that's going on, Dirty Sneakers EP with me and my brother T Lucas is out right now. You can stream that everywhere, as we say here. Everywhere, it's everywhere. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, thank y'all, man. I appreciate y'all
Thank
having me
you.
on the show. It was a
Yeah.
good time.
You were awesome, brother.
You're awesome,
thank
dude.
you,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Hey, man, it was my pleasure. Y'all
We
have a
can be,
great
we're
one.
friends now, right?
All right, man, we're cool, man. Hey, listen, I'm a find. I gotta once I put a frame on that art that you sent, man. I'll make sure I get a picture. I'm pretty sure if it's not in the studio right now, it should be in my daughter's room. But yeah,
Oh,
once
yeah.
we frame it, I'll make sure I shoot it to you, man.
8x10.
Yes,
Got it for you.
Got you. Thank you,
Right
brother.
on, man.
Appreciate you.
Thanks
for
so
coming
much,
on, bro.
man.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Have a
Y'all
good
take care.
Peace.
Peace.
All right, guys, let's do the ads. What do you guys got? What do you guys got for
Dude,
the ads?
I learned about Kwanzaa. Something I didn't really ever know about.
Save
That's
it for
super
the
fucking cool.
Patreon, Pat. Save it for the Patreon. We're doing a Patreon. We'll talk about it after that. Let's do the ads. Pat,
Oh,
what do you
yeah.
got?
You start. I gotta pull it up.
This episode all episodes is sponsored by the amazing, the talented, the incredible, the long dick wizard, Anthony Tank Mansfield. If you want to hit him up for any type of personal art starting at $30 or enamel pins, incredible glassware with his designs on it, or any other badass shit that you can possibly think of commissioning him for, you go to Instagram.com/Neil to No One. That's spelled KNEELTONOONE.com or Neil to No One on Instagram or wherever. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm stalling for time. Put
Oh,
your
yeah.
thumb up whenever you're ready to read.
I'm
your
ready.
read.
I'm ready, bro.
Oh, great. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the next one I want to shout out is also Hail Dark Aesthetics. Make sure to go check out the shop, guys. They got some really cool metal shit. They got tapes. They got records. They got taxidermy, and they got all cool like collectibles and shit like that. If you go there and you're in the checkout lane, you just say "Hail Bastard" at the checkout. You're gonna get 10% off. They have a website coming. Just make sure you keep up with that. But they're open on 720 Main Street, Covington, Kentucky 41011. Monday 12 to 7 p.m. through Friday, and then Sunday 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. So go check them out. Say "Hail Bastard," get 10% off.
We are also sponsored by Scarlet Vape and Smoke Shop. If you want some quality, top shelf, heady glass for your stinky cheese or marijuana, you want to head on over to Scarlet Vape and Smoke Shop. If you got any needs for kratom, you need some help going to sleepy time, just head on over to 11424 Montgomery Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45249, or you can head on over to 937 Monmouth Street, Newport, Kentucky, 41071. And tell them that you are a bastard and get that sweet 10% off of your products.
Sweet 10% off.
Or
lastly,
get your
here,
haircut down there at Clifton Barbers. Pat, what's the
Yeah.
address?
Yeah, make sure you stop, pull your car over, get a piece of paper.
We're not
out.
doing
you
this
got
again.
That gum wrapper. You got that gum wrapper right on that.
I'm taking a
just kidding.
piss.
337 Ludlow Avenue, Clifton Barbers. Go get a haircut by Cody Best. You can also go to their Instagram or their Facebook. Go to Clifton Barbers. You're gonna have a link to all of their personal accounts. There's no walk-ins at the moment due to COVID, so it's appointment only. Online booking is also available. It's cash only, as far as I'm aware. 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, and then 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday. So yeah, go check that out. And then shameless self-promotion here. Go check out my art page on Instagram if you feel like it. Dark Mountain Cult. I like to draw a lot of cool nerdy shit. I'll draw your game logos. I'll do CDs. I'll just draw whatever. If you just want me to draw some, I'll draw it. I don't really give a fuck. I just like drawing. Hit me up, Dark Mountain Cult.
Follow us on twitch.tv/TBS Pod Gaming. We'll be doing some streams, usually before the podcast recording on Tuesdays. Didn't do it today. Going to be doing it right now after the recording of this episode. Going to do some,
what are you streaming?
Some Mortal Kombat 11 with the Juggalos and Clint. If you want to join the party, we'll be doing that.
The Juggalos are there. You count me in, bro.
Can
Yeah,
we talk
Juggalos
about how
will be in the party.
have we talked about how dope Dark Mountain Cold is yet?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
we're done with the ads.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
we're good
Were you
here.
guys waiting on me to finish pissing?
Yep, let's
Yeah,
wrap
we're
this
good.
up. We'll
Let's
see you
wrap it up.
next week. And remember to tune into our Patreon now. You can go to patreon.com/TBS pod.
They'll find it.
Super
we'll make
cool.
a link.
Hit us up for that. That's really exciting.
Nobody's
excited
still
to work on your shit.
Patreon.com/Patreon.
Pat, stop saying the N word. Stop holding up a sign that says the N word on it, Pat. Jesus Christ, I can't believe you.
You love it though.
I can't
Cody.
believe.
You're
Oh my God, he's. Oh no! Now he's got out the lawn jockeys. We gotta
Cody,
go.
quit
Pat.
masturbating
We
while
gotta
you're
go.
saying
Oh
this.
my
Cannot
God,
roll
this
my
is.
eyes harder. This is
Holy
great.
shit! This
Wrap
is
it up.
crazy.
We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.